City of Stevens Point Plan Commission meeting, recorded August 4th, 2025.
I have 6 o'clock. We'll call the regular City Plan Commission meeting to order. I'll do a roll call. Weeza is present. Kneebone.
Here.
Arnson. Here. Rice.
Here.
Schuler.
Here.
Muskoviak and Beacom are excused. We do have a quorum, so we will continue on. Item number 2 is the report of the July 7th, 2025 meeting of the commission. We did have some errors in there, so we are not going to take action on the minutes and actions of last month. This month, we'll do it next month. So last month, not this month, next month. Item number 3 is a request from Patrick Kelly, representing Jehovah's Witnesses Stevens Point congregation for a sign variance to install a freestanding sign on the property located at 3600 North Point Drive at the parcel identified in your packet, consistent with chapter 25.14. Director, where are we going with Adam on this one?
I can do this one.
Adam.
So the applicant is requesting a sign variance to swap out the existing freestanding sign located in the front of the building, more towards the North Point Drive street frontage. It's proposing to replace this existing non-conforming freestanding sign with that of a 60 square foot size freestanding sign that's approximately 6.5 feet in height. So as folks may recall, I think it was about last year and a half ago for the sign variance request for St. Peter's. Churches, while zoned residential, have some unique sign code requirements because of that type of land use. So instead of, in this case, the property being zoned R2 single family and being subject to, I believe, 2 square feet in size for freestanding signs, they are allowed to have a maximum size of 20 square feet. So it is bumped up. However, the sign height would stay the same. So since the height would exceed the maximum height allowances as well as the maximum freestanding or maximum size allowances for freestanding signs, the applicant is proposing to request a sign variance. This slide shows the existing freestanding sign on the top of the screen here with the proposed sign that's being swapped out on the bottom. Really, the justification for the sign variance is including 2 different language preferences on the same sign and proposing a slightly larger sign given the fact that it is set back farther from the street. The reason being so is because of some wetland considerations and because of some of the other street frontages that just won't allow to have a freestanding sign there, namely Interstate 39. So staff's recommendation is to approve, and I believe the applicant is in person somewhere. Should there be any questions?
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners at this point?
Question?
Yes.
Adam, is the existing sign base going to be reused, the brick?
Yes, they'll be reused.
Okay, how about the wood portion that serves as the sign now?
That'll be replaced.
Okay.
So the cabinet
If you look,
will be replaced.
It looks like this is going to be the replacement.
Well, I'm familiar with the picture, but it was also with that shape.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So-
my understanding is that would be removed.
Yeah. It looks like they put sheets over it or something to cover it up to give you an idea what the
Right.
new one would look like.
Yeah.
And it was the that side, the shape of that gave it the 6.5 foot side initially. Based on the drawing submitted for the sign, it looked like that the heights were going to match what was out there now.
Correct. Yeah, the main difference was this sign will be truncated in size. I believe the existing sign is about 200 square feet, I
Right.
believe. So that's really the main difference. Height will be similar.
Okay. And again, the illustration, it looks like that the height is generated by the existing wooden part now that you say isn't going to be there anymore?
Correct. Yeah, my understanding is that they're going to be shifting, kind of hoisting the proposed sign cabinet up so it's at a similar height to where the existing sign height is.
Okay. So, all right. That makes some sense. I appreciate that.
Comment on that if you want.
Oh, you're the Patrick?
Okay,
Okay,
let's get
perfect.
the applicant up here. Go ahead. I need you up in the lectern though, because that's where the microphone is.
The entire brick facade and wood structure would be removed, and what you see on the lower left is what it would be, with the addition of
I see.
Spanish and English. So you get a smaller, more
Okay.
discreet, more professional-looking sign. The big, huge sign would be removed, and it'd just have nice curb appeal.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So basically just the cabinet itself with no brick on the side?
Yeah, basically everything you see in that lower left-hand,
Lower left, so this
just
one.
plus add Spanish.
Okay.
So we are having an open house the 15th of this month, 16th and 17th, a rededication of the building because we had a huge remodeling project there. You may have seen anybody who passed by there last year. All are welcome on the 15th, but we want to get a permit as soon as possible because we'd like to have the new sign installed before the 15th. So I don't know if that's possible. No?
No.
And that's fine.
We've got, because if whatever happens tonight, it'll have to go to council, and council meets on the 18th.
I had to give it a good try.
Sorry.
But thank you for your consideration. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners? I think we got a few people in the audience, maybe? Questions? Anyone in the overflow room have questions or comments on this request? Okay. Then commissioners, I'll bring it back to you. Go ahead.
I'm done.
You're done.
Based on the existing precedent, the staff analysis in the staff report, the distance from the road, the need for two languages, the downsizing of the sign area, and the relative isolation of the location, I would move to recommend approval subject to staff's
Recommendations?
conditions.
Conditions, thanks. Okay, so a second? Second it by Arnson. Discussion there? Any additional comments from the audience? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. Item number four is a public hearing and action on a request from Victor Baeten, representing Stevens Point, Wisconsin LLC, to rezone properties located at 3383 Hoover Road, 5278 County Road HH, and an unaddressed parcel bounded by County Road HH, with the parcel as identified in your packet, from R1 Suburban Single Family Residential District to B4 Commercial District. Adam?
Thank you, Mayor. So the first slide that's shown on the screen here shows the proposed master plan, the Phase 1 development for the subject area. As part of this rezoning request, the Phase 1 of this master plan includes a proposed gas station and car wash facility that would be located more in the central part of the subject area, closer towards the southern end of the property, plus two additional retail buildings located more on the west side of the subject area, closer to Hoover Road. As shown on here, there is a proposed new city public street that would provide access to those three buildings. Shown on the master plan, there would not be access on off of either Hoover or County Road HH. As part of this proposed city street, there is a proposed new intersection located off of County Road HH, and that'll be something that I'll talk about a little bit later as it relates to the approval process for that. Before I go to the review standards for a rezoning request, I just want to take a step back and talk about the master plan that's shown on the slide here. If the rezoning is approved, that by itself does not mean that what's shown on the screen here as part of the master plan will come to fruition. That there are many other types of requests that would have to be submitted in order for exactly what's shown on the slide here to become reality. These include the several bullet point items that's shown on the slide here. First one, the Portage County Highway Committee would have to approve a variance from their subdivision ordinance regarding the proposed intersection off of County Road HH and the minimum intersection spacing that exists along that thoroughfare. For this commission and the council, there are many different, several different requests that would have to be submitted. These would be a conditional use permit to have a gas station within the B4 commercial district, a conditional use permit to have a gas station within the city's groundwater protection district, Zone C, a conditional use permit to operate a car wash in the B4 district, a conditional use permit to have both retail buildings on the same parcel, plus the right-of-way dedication and acceptance as part of that proposed city public street. So on the next slide, as far as the review standards are concerned, there's a few big ones. I hope that the commissioners read the staff report. There's a lot more detail in there, more than what I'm going to go over, at least during this short presentation. But one of the big things that are looked at in relation to a rezoning request is consistency with the city's future land use map. So the subject area is shaded in that red color. That is the commercial office and multifamily residential future land use distinction, which would mean, kind of as explained, that commercial uses, office uses, or more of your high density multifamily residential uses would be allowed in this corridor, or within this area. The proposed land uses as part of this phase 1, a gas station, 2 retail buildings, would be consistent with the commercial land use distinction as part of the future land use map. And before I go further, I just want to talk a little bit about why consistency with the city's future land use map is important when considering rezoning requests. Not only is that stated in local ordinance as something that ought to be followed as a practice, but there is more real-life implications as far as the day-to-day administration of our comprehensive plan and the day-to-day administration of land use decisions made internally by staff and you folks as a commission. Now I mentioned this in the staff report, there's probably on a daily basis, almost a daily basis, I have folks who approach me asking, hey, is this certain type of land use allowed within this particular piece of property? These groups could range from developers to realtors to prospective business owners to folks wanting to buy a home here in the city. One of the first things that I look at in deciding, hey, is that proposed land use allowed or not on a given property, is the future land use map. And I have some hesitation if we deviate from the future land use map and making future land use policy here here by this commission and internally by staff. It, frankly, in my opinion, discredits the comprehensive plan in a way. It makes, from a day-to-day perspective, on my end, it makes it more difficult to provide advice to those folks in the future when they ask what type of land use is allowed on a given property, and in a way it could disencourage developers or those prospective business owners, home buyers from doing business here in the city because they don't actually know what is allowed on the property, regardless of what the future land use map says or not. I just wanted to make that point clear.
Administrator, I've got a question. So at least some of these residential parcels were annexed into the city through an agreement with the town of Plover. Do you remember when that agreement took place?
Believe that was 2007 or 2000.
Not the annexation.
The agreement?
The agreement.
Okay. That I don't know offhand.
Because that was, I think that was done like during the Westcott administration. There was, does anybody out there know? You guys were into this. Pardon?
I thought it was 10 years prior to 2006.
Around 1997.
Okay, so yeah, so that would have been during the Westcott administration. So anybody that was living in this area had the opportunities, of course, to be part of that 2007 comprehensive plan update, or 2005
and 6.
2005 and 6. So they could have been part of that plan because they knew at some point in the near future they'd be annexed in, correct?
Correct.
And anybody that owned property or purchased property afterwards already could have seen the comprehensive plan that was in place from 2005, 2006. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. So besides the future land use map, another thing that's looked at in the context of a rezoning request is the purpose and intent statement of the proposed zoning district. So B4 Commercial District, the intent statement is shown on the bottom of the screen. It's a little bit hidden, but the key nugget as part of that intent statement is that the B4 district is intended to provide those retail, commercial, and office and service, and retail, commercial, office, service, and apartment uses in an area of good accessibility along arterial streets. Hoover Road is classified as a minor arterial street, and County Highway HH is classified as a major arterial street. That in and of itself lends me to believe that that B4 commercial designation is the most appropriate zoning classification for the site. If, say, a gas station was proposed on to be located on strictly residential street and they're requesting that same zoning designation, then that by itself would lend cause to believe that, hey, maybe the B4 commercial district is not the most appropriate. Maybe there's a different type of commercial district that's reasonable for the site. But given that this property borders two arterial streets, it, in my opinion, meets the intent statement of this B4 district to the T. And then the last slide, there is ample amount of information regarding traffic demand and traffic overall as it relates to this Phase 1 development. There was a traffic impact analysis that was produced by TADDY. They're a traffic engineering firm based out of, I believe, the Milwaukee area. I'm not sure if someone from TADDY was still planning to attend remotely. Online, perfect. So if there are any questions regarding traffic, I'll defer to the gentleman on the screen here. What I will say is that this traffic impact analysis was reviewed by the city's Public Works Department, the County Highway Department, and the State Department of Transportation, the latter being required because of the site's proximity to the I-39 interchange. Staff's recommendation is to approve the rezoning request and be happy to take any clarifying questions.
Do the commissioners have any clarifying questions before I open the public hearing? I do. It's my understanding that the developer did have a neighborhood meeting a while back?
Correct.
On their own?
That was back in July.
July?
June? End of June.
All right. You say back in it like it was such a long time ago.
It feels like a long time ago.
Yes, it does. It's already August. Somebody's only got, well, with any luck, 8 weeks left. All right, with that, before we open the public hearing, I do want to set some ground rules. We do have a lot of people here. I assume most of the people here are talking about this project. You're not all here for the selection of the vice chair. So I would ask that you be respectful of the time. It is a public hearing. We're going to have a 3-minute timer. But if you're continuing to talk relative points, we'll obviously let that go. If you agree with the previous speaker, you can say that I agree with the previous speaker. Be cognizant of everybody's time, and most importantly, by state law, we are only talking about the zoning tonight. We have a proposal on what they expect to put there, but we are not talking about that tonight. We are only talking about the zoning change, and that's all by law that we're allowed to talk to tonight. I think the director, and I'll go back to that slide, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 6 more meetings should the proposal be submitted to the city to talk about what is going to be there or what is going to be requested there. So tonight is only about the zoning, and with that, I will open the public hearing, declare that open, and those who wish to speak, just you can queue up over there. I do need you at the lectern, state your name and address for the record, and provide your testimony. That public hearing is open.
Deanne Donahue, 3395 Howard Avenue. Village Green was established in the late 60s. This neighborhood is not blighted, it's highly sought after. When a house here goes on the market, it's instantly purchased. Village Green is friendly, safe, conveniently located. Changing the zoning of this property will take away our safe feeling and pleasantness that exists, lower our property values, cause noise and light pollution, threaten our groundwater, create traffic nightmares, increase loitering and crime, and overall disrupt and cause unnecessary chaos to our neighborhood's quiet, peaceful tranquility. Stevens Point chose to annex Village Green in 2007. The city's kept us safe and cared for over the last 18 years. We paid for these services through taxes, just under $1 million annually. The property owner of the parcel in question tonight made an investment, but so did all of us, to the tune of over $46 million in current assessed value. That's not chunk change. Our investments are not just our properties, but also in Stevens Point. We aren't trying to become rich from our investment, but to raise our families and prosper in a safe environment, a beautiful, caring city, a friendly family area, not in the middle of commercial alley. Our neighborhood's investment far outweighs that of one investor. Myself and my neighbors all contribute to this fine city's economy. We keep the money here. The investor will take profits away to his own area, and we care about our neighbors in our town. An investor's only goal is to make money at the expense of others. You don't see any investors creating a commercial compound with a gas station in their own backyards. Priority should be given to those who lived here for decades and supported Stevens Point, not to a non-resident. The current comprehensive plan was created before Village Green was part of Point, and we weren't given a voice in that development. But I'd like to point out a few items from that plan. Chapter 2, Housing Element, Section 2.5. Because of its major impact on community quality of life and future growth and prosperity, efforts must be taken to protect the existing housing supply through effective building and land use code enforcement. Goal A, allow for an adequate supply of housing to meet the need of all citizens. Goal B, maintain or improve the quality and integrity of existing housing and neighborhoods. The result will be residential neighborhoods which are safe and pleasant, where property values are protected, and which are free from incompatible land uses and traffic volumes. B4 is not compatible with R1. Commercial zoning will definitely not maintain or improve the quality and integrity of Village Green. It will ruin our neighborhood and quickly devalue our $46+ million investment. We are your constituents. We are the people you see when shopping, working, attending church, whose children go to school here. We are the people who vote here. We are the people who truly care about Stevens Point. We're the ones vested in this community.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Your time's already started.
Joe Donahue, Chapter 3, Joe Donahue, 3395 Howard Avenue. Chapter 3, Transportation, Section 3.5, Goals, Objectives, and Policies. Goal D, balance the road needs of through traffic commuters with the needs of adjacent neighborhoods to minimize the disturbance and adverse impacts on the neighborhoods. The additional traffic impact on Village Green will be detrimental to emergency vehicles, school buses, work commutes, and everyday life. Additional policies under this goal include preserve existing trees and create boulevards to plant new trees. Clear cutting, as suggested by the investor, and fences do not create effective borders. Plus, these borders are rarely maintained by non-resident investors. Objective D2 in this regards to directing truck traffic away from residential areas. Commercial zoning brings truck traffic right past residences, creating more noise, safety concerns, and access point issues. Chapter 8, Section 8.4 talks about balancing land use that still maintains the high quality of life that Stevens Point residents currently enjoy. Having commercial property abut Village Green would not be maintaining any sort of quality of life for our subdivision. There's already a vast array of commercial areas in the city, many that are now sitting vacant and becoming blighted. Redevelopment of what already exists is encouraged in the comprehensive plan. There is no need for additional commercial property development, especially next to a residential neighborhood. Your city residents are seeking affordable residential property. It exists. It's right on the existing 18 acres. I realize that the staff has recommended this property be rezoned, but it would be a great disservice to the residents of Village Green and not following the comprehensive plan's goals, objectives, or policies, nor what the purpose of zoning is. Planning and zoning's purpose is to promote the orderly and harmonious use of land while improving the quality of life for current and future generations of this community. The division is administered in a manner designed to fulfill the objectives of the city's comprehensive plan. Staff within the division provide assistance to applicants in the processing of permits and give citizens the opportunity to participate in land use decisions. I guarantee you this rezoning would not be recommended if this abomination were located in any of the staff's backyards. I'm asking that each of you protect the integrity of Village Green that has been a thriving, tax-paying, vital part of the Stevens Point community and surrounding area for 55 years. Please choose to keep these parcels residential. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that you are passionate about this. However, this is an official city meeting and we need to do our best to maintain decorum. It's not a sporting event. I would expect that I'm going to make the assumption that you're supportive of what the speaker is saying. If you're not, you have an opportunity to get up there yourself and do a counterpoint. So are we okay with that? We just need to maintain some decorum. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Donahue Renfort. I live at 3349 Orchid Lane, and I'm a lifelong resident of the Village Green neighborhood. I'm here to express concern about the current rezoning proposal for the parcels. I'm not opposed to any and all rezoning and development of the property, but I am opposed to the plan to rezone the entire area to B4 commercial when better alternatives exist. The staff's recommendations talk about alignment with the comprehensive plan, and I do want to point out that the city's comprehensive plan is nearly 20 years old and legally out of compliance, as it's supposed to be updated every 10 years. And just because something is included in the comp plan's future land use map, it doesn't have to be made that way. It's a guideline. And also it said that, future land use map, commercial use, not necessarily B4 commercial use, right? There's lesser commercial uses. The really outdated comprehensive plan, it doesn't reflect the current conditions of Stevens Point, and it really didn't seem to include neighbors in its planning. The residents in my neighborhood were really active, last fall, 2024, when there were some efforts to update the plan as it existed at that point. So I think moving forward, we need to look at zoning compatibility and the planning principles underlying it. There's no B4 commercial zoning directly next to R1 zoning in the city. It doesn't exist because it's poor planning. It creates conflict between high-intensity commercial use and low-density residential neighborhoods. So I think good planning includes a lot more transitional zones like multifamily residential or neighborhood commercial zones in between to buffer and protect residential neighborhoods. And you'll see a lot of that north of Highway 10. So alternative approaches to consider would be rezoning to R3 or R4 residential, which would support the need for middle housing and reduce impact on the neighborhood. Or if the area was rezoned as B1 neighborhood business district, which would allow for development like pet stores, which is proposed, but with less disruption. And, it might not allow for big box retail or gas stations. I think partial rezoning is another good option because there's a proposal to split these parcels up anyways. So the land bordering R1 residential could be used as a buffer, and the rezoning to B4 commercial or something that would really impact the neighborhood could be kept to only the corner. Now, I don't think that's the best idea, but it's still a better option than rezoning the whole thing to B4. And the more it's rezoned to commercial, the more that I would request on behalf of my neighborhood that there be additional screening and setback requirements put into place to protect the neighborhood as it exists. I just think all these alternatives better balance development with neighborhood preservation.
Thank you. Public hearing remains open. I do need to point out, only because it reflects poorly, the zoning plan is not out of compliance. It may be outdated a little bit. We should have been doing this, well, we have been working on it for years. COVID was a big piece of that, but it is not out of compliance. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Susan Kadronowitz. My address is W17329, 2 Mile Road, Tigerton, Wisconsin. I am the former owner of the property. And I know I'm not going to be popular. There's not going to be any applauding when I finish. I lived there. We knew it had been rezoned commercial when we lived there, and we were glad we had as long as we did. As it built up, it became less and less a residential area. The corner of HH and Hoover, I know you don't agree with me, but is not residential. You cannot sit out in your backyard and have a fire and hear each other talk because there's too much traffic. And I am truly sorry that you're going to lose your buffer. But if you lived on the corner like I did, you would know that is not residential. And maybe there's other plans, I don't know, but I know that Victor treated us fairly and with respect. If it's not Victor, it's probably going to be someone else, and you might not get the same, I don't know, I can't think of the word, but if you go and sit in my mom's backyard and want to have coffee in the morning and have a conversation, it can't be done. You cannot hear. You can't have your children play in the front yard because there's too much traffic. It was zoned commercial when we lived there. We knew this was going to happen, and I'm sorry, but it's not, that corner is not residential. Thank you.
Thank you.
No applause.
Public hearing is still open.
Hi, Savannah Hebier, 52724 Forest Circle South. I'm going to change my notes a little bit so that they're not illegal, according to Mayor Weese's advice earlier, but I just want to add a couple things. I agree strongly with what Deanna and Jocelyn and my other neighbors have said, so I just want to kind of add our piece of it. So I actually grew up in the Village Green neighborhood. My parents built a house on Howard in 2003. It was an empty lot when they bought it, and they built the house, and we've lived there. They lived there for quite some time. They moved only recently. And they actually have the highway had the highway in their backyard, but because of the amount of buffer, you actually couldn't really even hear the highway during the summer, especially with the thick foliage. So I'm here to ask you to think about the rezoning of this land from residential to commercial. Specifically, I know that there's been a traffic analysis done already. An environmental impact study, I think, would be a huge benefit to understanding what might make sense to go in there. In just the block that sits directly behind the proposed development, so the stretch that I'm on, Forest Circle South, there's at least 12 kids who live and play there, and I know that because they're outside almost every single day. They're practicing softball, they're learning to ride their bikes, they're waving from strollers, and we just had 2 brand new little baby girls come home within the last 3 months to live on that street. So there's a lot of kids there. It's not just a neighborhood. It's the kind of place where neighbors check in, bringing dinner when things are hectic. Sorry. My dad passed away, and the neighborhood really came together for me. They bring dinner when things are hectic. They share Christmas cookies, and they bring extra Christmas cookies when they know you like them. They bring in your mail, and they invite you to Bunko. It's the exact place I want to raise my daughter. Sorry. So rezoning, well, yes, I understand that the area does have some commercial, and maybe that stretch isn't commercial fully, but I think there needs to be more thought into the buffers and how that land use will be done. I know we're not supposed to bring up what could go there, but I am really proud of the city's strides in becoming carbon neutral by 2050. According to the city's Sustainability Progress Report, Stevens Point has saved 1.3 million pounds of CO2 since 2020. And if something like perhaps a gas station were to go in there, that would emit over 90 times the amount in just 1 year, let alone any other commercial entity that was going to go there. I think that residential infill and the need that we have for affordable housing in Stevens Point is one of the most carbon positive things to do for that area. I think there's like 2% housing vacancy in Stevens Point, and in particular in our neighborhood. As was mentioned earlier, the homes in our neighborhood sell and they sell quickly, and that infrastructure is there. So thank you for your time and standing up for safe and sustainable neighborhoods and for dealing with me.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. Eric Renfert, 3349 Orchid, and also owner of a vacant property a couple blocks north on Hoover. A couple points of clarification from previous speakers. I agree tremendously with many of them. So first off, this property was not rezoned commercial. We're talking right now about rezoning it commercial, right? The future land use map was updated to state commercial. The future land use map, as Administrator Kuhn mentioned, is an important guiding document for our city. However, it should not be the first place that we look. It should be the current zoning map, right? The future land use map is optional. It is guiding. It can be followed. We can't go against it, but if something is in keeping with it, we can follow it. Also, strictly speaking, our comprehensive plan is out of compliance. State statute states it needs to be updated every 10 years. It doesn't specifically lay out what update means. However, our comprehensive plan does lay out what update means. We have not done that. We've attempted on multiple attempts, but it hasn't happened. That's important because it's such an important thing for our community to get feedback on that they mandated that every 10 years we get to speak on it. That hasn't happened. So that is a bit disappointing, and I would urge that we perhaps revisit and revitalize efforts. I know that we're working on getting that updated right now. There was great effort on it last year. We just need to get it across the finish line. The traffic study, I'm a civil engineer by training, licensed professional. The traffic study raised a few issues. One, the level of service, which is how we grade intersections for the exits from our neighborhood, specifically at Iris, was projected to be level of service F by 2040. That is the lowest available and is characterized by severe delays. The study mentions that, oh, well, that's not really a big deal because you could go to Forest Circle South and then turn out of there. Didn't model that. Forest Circle South was already projected at level of service C. These are based on traffic counts that feel a little low. They were done the second day back in school after spring break. 37 total vehicles were leaving our neighborhood via these two roads and peak traffic hour in the morning. That might need to be revisited, particularly when we're already towing the line with level of service F. It's a bit concerning. I'll do quick math and round up and do things like that to get a rough sense of things, but if I come into trouble, I'm going to sharpen my pencil a little bit. So I think we need to look very closely at studying those traffic numbers a little bit more as we consider these things. And then water is another thing that I'm very concerned about, but we'll save that for another time with the conditional use permits if it comes to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Alicia Screenis. I live at 5316 Forest Circle. Brain fart there, okay. I wanted to just comment on the fact of living on a busy road and living next to businesses, because prior to living in the Village Green neighborhood, I actually lived right next to, right across from, God, now I can't even think of it. Thank you, St. Steve's,
There you go.
next to the bank there, and I had little kids, and we lived right on Clark Street, double lane, very, very busy, and I understand it's not the corner of HH and Hoover, but we still played in our front yard, we still biked in our driveway, even though it was busy. We found that value in living there, and I can also understand how it is living next to a business and an empty parking lot. We had people who took breaks literally 1 foot over from our property line, and that comes with some feelings where if you have commercial that butts right up to a property, it's random people looking at you, doing things in your backyard where you can't rest, relax, things like that. So I can understand some of that picture, and I can also understand how residential could be utilized next to busy streets as well. To say that that corner cannot be residential, I think is not necessarily true. So I wanted to just do a little bit about that. But I also wanted to just say a little bit about, my kids have been hearing us talk about this, and just a few things that I asked them each for a sentence, if they could say something, what they would say. Frankie, he's age 11, he said there are a lot of other empty lots that people would not have cared about there being commercial going in Stevens Point, and I think that is a true point, because there are a lot of places that you could build or use for commercial businesses. Corey, who's actually turning 13 today, said it probably hosts most of the wildlife in our neighborhood. Max, age 7, said it is going to be too busy. Roy, age 6, just said people won't want to live there. So those are the kind of things that my kids have thoughts about too, which are also residents of that neighborhood who are not, here to speak. I just wanted to say that we ask you just to listen to what we are saying, because we are here representing that neighborhood. We are a part of the community, and we are giving, I think, plenty of legitimate reasons and concerns and valid things that we would hope that you really take into consideration and really listen to and discuss before you go ahead and change the zoning or whatever terminology it might be for the zoning. And I just think that this is not the right corner or the right place to be building this type of residential. And I definitely think, as others have said, there are other things that could go there besides this type of commercial. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, you threw me off just for a second.
Yep, sorry.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Mason. I live at 5279 County Road, HH. I'm right across from that residence, and if anybody wants to come and sit in my front yard or to drive out of my driveway, I have 2 of them. It takes quite a while to get out of there. People they're rude, they won't move over, so you can even go to your right. Left is almost impossible. My husband's family has been there since the 1800s. We've had land taken away because Highway 39 was put in there. Myron Soik bought the grandma's land. If he wouldn't have developed that, none of you could shop at Kohl's, Walmart, and all that, unless you don't go to those stores. But look how that commercial. If that wouldn't be commercial, none of you would be shopping. And we had to move our house because he wanted the 4-lane in there. We had a choice of moving, being condemned, or moving the house. Well, we moved our house, and if you look at our house, the south lane of HH would have been going through the east side of my side living room window. That's how far back we had to go. My front yard used to be my backyard. We have a lot of life out there. We've got 2 nice bucks back there. I've got stuff back there, and there's residential behind us. But I don't think any of you want to live on that road. And my grandchildren come over, and now I got great-grandchildren. I don't want them near the road because of how much traffic is there. There is so much. So I don't see any other way of going along this corridor. I can't see anybody wanting to put a house there and be safe. So I guess I support it because I can't see anything else going along there. And like I said, when I first moved there was 5 houses there. Nobody else. And we loved it. But we had to accept change and development over the years. I'm now 82. I've had to accept a lot of stuff. We had to swallow a lot of stuff. And I think that's what we have to look at, development and future of that area. Thank you.
Public hearing is still open. I know we've got a few people online that want to say things too, but I'll exhaust everybody here in person first. That sounded bad. You're probably already exhausted, aren't you?
Frank Ness. I presently reside at 3280 Howard Avenue. I've lived here for 5 years. I purchased my home because of the integrity of the neighborhood, not for the potential change in zoning from residential to commercial on the bordering properties. It is presently, if I read your notes right, residential, R1 residential, and you want to change it to commercial. Having been a civil engineer for 45 years, there's a lot of other opportunities for developing that parcel without going to what's proposed by the developer. There could be zero lot line residences, it could be condos, there's a lot of different ways to buffer the traffic from Hoover and Double H with the way the traffic pattern would be routed through that parcel. I'm opposed to the changing of the zoning. I support the comments of previous people in favor of it.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is still open. Anyone in the overflow room? Come on in. No, go ahead. Anyone in the overflow room, come on in, queue up.
Michael Corrigan, 3271 Tulip Lane. I've got one comment and one question to you. My comment, as we're making reference to the comprehensive plan, and as it's only a guideline, but in our guidelines, there's a reference about land use conflict. It's in Chapter 8. Right now, there's no conflict. It's zoned R1. You make a change to this to commercial, B4, now we've got a conflict. I want you to think about that. Number two is, my question to you is, zoning this parcel to B4 commercial, how is it really going to affect the quality of life for the citizens of Stevens Point for the better? We're talking about an increase of traffic with commercial. Everything commercial is on the other side of 39. Take a look. I'm sure you've driven that way. Take a look. It's all over there. Why start something different now? Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open.
Hello, my name is Jenny Kang. We are the Vu family at 52584 Circle South. We strongly believe in keeping our neighborhoods residential to preserve the peaceful, family-oriented environment that makes our community special. There are already many vacant commercial properties nearby that could be repurposed for business use, saving valuable resources and avoiding the disruption of turning a quiet neighborhood into a commercial lot. Maintaining the current zoning helps protect local quality of life, reduce traffic congestion, and ensure our area remains a safe and welcoming space for all. Like my kids said before I left, go and protect our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Just for those people in the overflow room, you may have missed the comment about maintaining decorum. That means you guys do. Please hold the applause. This isn't a sporting event. Go ahead, sir.
Eric Reed, 3287 Howard Avenue. I've been a lifelong resident of Plover, Stevens Point, left for college and returned, and I spent my entire youth biking through this neighborhood to see my dad, who worked at Donaldson for his entire career. So I very thoroughly know this neighborhood. I then purchased a home in this neighborhood and brought my family here. I also grew up in Plover, where a new Quick Trip was built and redesigned, and we saw our entire neighborhood get cut in half. We lost anything close to that entire side of the neighborhood, and a big part of my childhood, we lost an entire Springville Pond because it was no longer safe for us because of the increased traffic and business. So I just want to call out to the negative effects that we can see in the neighborhood when new development, something like a Quick Trip, comes in. Thank you.
Thank you. Can't believe you left to go to school. We've got a world-class school right here. I'm kidding. I'm teasing. Anyone else in the overflow room wishing to speak, or anyone in this room?
Yeah, I got something to say. Stacy Kijewski, 52794 Circle South. So just to comment on some of the previous landowners. So when I purchased a home in this subdivide, 2003, it was town of Plover. And the property that's in question right now was zoned agricultural. So in 2007, when the city did annex this property, I came to City Hall to speak on behalf of the previous owners to leave it agricultural so they wouldn't get hit with high taxes because they used it for horses and different things like that. So in this process of me living there for 22 years, I don't even know when it became residential 1 until the commercial for sale signs came up into place. So I would like maybe a little more information on how that all took place without us kind of being aware of any of this. Some of us don't have opportunities to just pack up and move at this point in life, COVID being a big part of it. So I am opposed to going residential to commercial for something like a gas station that would basically be in my backyard. Buffer zones of very importance. I can see the man that purchased the property, you know, I want him to have something there, but a 24-hour gas station versus a restaurant or something that can close at a recent or a decent hour, so that when I come home from my second shift at midnight, I don't have to listen to traffic and commercial equipment, especially during the winter plowing this property. The extra exhaust fumes and everything that's going to come with it. So my real opposal is to an actual gas station right behind my house. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in person still wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Danny Wanta. I live on 5271 Forest Circle South. And I just want to say thank you to my neighbors. You all came up here, spoke from your heart, your truth. We're fighting to keep this area safe, quality of life, the nature life, the peace and quiet. So we beg, we plead to please reconsider what is happening here. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, maybe we just don't need anybody from the overflow room coming in to speak anymore, because I still hear applause. Yes, sir.
Jacob Giese, 52614 Forest Circle South. HH is my backyard, and you all have covered what my wife and I had concerns for. We're probably the newest in the neighborhood, about 2 years. Just had our first baby girl, and she's amazing. We want to make sure that we stay in this neighborhood. We want to grow old in this neighborhood. And so the biggest concern is, you know, safety, you know, and noise and everything else. I think safety is just our number one, being that the amount of kids that we see on our street, and I can count all the kids on our side of the road, all the way to the end of the road. And I just wanted to make sure that I came up here just so that you all see that I'm here as well as a new resident of the neighborhood, and I'm so proud to be a part of that neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open. Anyone coming down the hallway? Frantically scrambling? Nobody's running? Too busy clapping. Good. All right, then we're going to go to a few online. Andrea, yours is the first one I saw. Go ahead.
Okay, Andrea Olson, 410 Franklin Street. So I sent an email and spoke at Common Council meetings about these parcels back in 2023. I spoke to concerns about the housing affordability report because I felt that the city was not representing the undeveloped parcels accurately, because of parcels like this that are residential were not being shown as residential in this report, which is 18 acres of residential property that could provide to the housing base. The city kept saying that we're using our future planned use to determine what we actually put in those reports. So if future planned use was for commercial, then it would be commercial availability. I didn't agree with that, and I thought that made the study short-sighted, and that study, I was told, doesn't really get used, but it gets referenced all the time, and it is even referenced in the comprehensive plan. So the city's comprehensive plan, as others have said, includes the future land use, which is adopted in 2006. And saying that people could provide input then as justification for why they can't voice opinions now is just rude. You don't know if they did or didn't speak up when it was being written, and it is 19 years old, and it fell short previously under our mayor's oversight when they tried to do it before. So thank goodness that we're working on it now, because lots of stuff is changing. Like, back 19 years ago, we barely had cell phones. So let's take a look at the goals of the comprehensive plan. Developable land. There's a limited amount of vacant land within the existing city boundaries available for suitable for residential development. And they said that annexing was pretty much the only option. Porter, shush, sorry, dog in my background. But we do have these 18 acres right now for housing. What's more important, more residential or more commercial, when we already have a surplus of vacant commercial? So we can look at this if it is zoned R3, which could be with a traditional overlay. That's 150 houses that could be built there. And when we're looking at that, and then we're looking at our tax base, which we all care about our tax base, especially when we're going to be having budget shortfalls. Duplexes in Plover on 8,000 to 10,000 square foot lots are selling for $350,000 to $425,000. So that's $52.5 million to $63.75 million of taxable property value right there. That's a lot, and that's going to keep going up. And unless I'm mistaken, the investor paid $2.1 million for the 18 acres. And that is about $116,666 per acre, which is commercial, not residential prices. The landowner lucked out. And they were banking on that this property would end up being zoned commercial. However, they could have planned ahead too and put in the offer that unless this did get rezoned, they weren't going to buy it. Sorry, I got a little bit off there, but you can put that in your offer that as a contingency, like, I will not buy this land unless it gets rezoned. They decided not to do that. That's on them. That's not on us. However, an easier pill to swallow for that person that made the investment, 150 houses, is about $14,000 per lot that he paid. Developer could sell the lots for $40,000 to $65,000, which is $6 million to
Andrea, I'm going to stop you there. We're getting a little
million.
far away from the zoning request at hand. If you could keep your comments germane to the request
because this is
for a B4
rezoning.
commercial zoning, that would be appropriate.
This is rezoning because
You're talking about the value of homes in a parcel that isn't being requested to be what it is. It's being requested to be a B4 commercial.
This is residential, and
The request is to rezone it to B4 commercial. Do you have comments relating to the request?
However, the request is to rezone it.
Right,
If we're looking
to
at
B4
reasons
commercial.
to rezone it or continue its current zoning, we do need to look at the big picture. And it's not fair to say that something is unrelated when we are looking at our community as a whole and what will benefit our community the most. What will benefit our community the most is housing. These other things that we're considering, rezoning this to commercial, that will create possible amenities. Yes, conditional uses can be given in the future for things that they may or may not want to do, but after you rezone it, that's when it opens up a big pot of worms, and a lot more things with higher density or higher uses could move in. And when this is surrounded by residential, this should stay residential. Making it commercial without any solid plans isn't the best idea. We just discussed this too with the property over by was the book company, where they wanted to rezone it. And Mayor Wiesa, you used the same your logic then was that well, our comprehensive plan says that it should be rezoned. Well, you know what? Common Council shot that down and did not rezone that property because we have other options for commercial. This owner made an investment. He might have been a great human being, but did not make it where he had a contingency in the offer. That's on him. That's not for us. We can now put our thoughts out there for what we think that the land should be.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Public hearing is still open. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Dale Steinmetz, Alder for District 6.
Yes, sir.
I apologize for any background noise. I am in the car right now. Just wanted to say thank you for the neighbors and residents for coming out and sharing your thoughts. I apologize I couldn't be there in person. I also want to say thank you to the commissioners for your careful consideration and city staff for their analysis. I think it is also worth bringing up the developer donated 2 buildings on that parcel of land to the police and fire. So thank you there and for being willing to hear out residents and neighbors for their concerns. Ultimately, when we're looking at this parcel and those 2 arterial roads that it abuts, I understand the argument for commercial being the highest and best use. I also see the concerns of residents in terms of making sure that that development is thoughtful and there aren't too many spillovers for them. That is all I have to say on the topic. If any neighbors want to reach out, please do. My information is available on the city website. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderperson Steinmetz. We do have one more person that stepped up to the lectern. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I really don't care.
Name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Anastasia Wanta, 5271 Forest Circle South. I really don't care if the quit trip is a good idea or a bad idea, but the thing is, I just want to keep the neighborhood safe. And that's all I'm saying.
Thank you. And thank you for stepping up. It takes a lot of courage. You may applaud. Yeah, that's a big deal. We like seeing people involved. Dale is applauding virtually. I want everybody to see that. The last time, the public hearing is still open. Public hearing remains. Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Trebuchowski, 3262 Sunflower Road. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person. My family is having our yearly vacation up north. I think it's important to note that the parcel in question is in the Whiting Wellhead Protection Zone A, less than 1,500 feet from the Whiting Well parcel. And it's important to consider our neighbors in Whiting as well, and not just Stevens Point when doing this. Also, I agree with everything my neighbors have said. I'm so proud of my neighbors for stepping up. We live in such an amazing community, and I love being there. We've been there since 1999 and have raised 2 children there. And I just really hope that it remains residential. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have one more speaker who wishes to speak. A wildlife aficionado.
Yeah. Okay, can you say your name? Tilly. Tilly Hebier, 5272 Forest Circle South. I'll just say that we have been talking about this at home a lot, so she definitely has her opinions. What do you want to say? Keep the neighborhood safe, she says.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's more than appropriate. Public hearing is still open. Public hearing remains open.
Yeah, BJ Hermson, 5295 Rose Pass. We actually purchased our house in 2007, so there was no tax roll for us to base our purchase off of. We were immediately reassessed at a far higher rate than what our neighbors were for about a decade, with the justification being that the city was doing a reassessment. This gives me some trust issues on the fact that we're saying the land reuse or land use plan is in the works of being updated. It's okay that it's well past the 10-year cycle. I feel that if we can't handle our basic administrative tasks, we likely shouldn't be looking at rezoning at all until that is done. I also agree with everything my neighbors have said, and I don't think the volume of that commercial space is adequate for the road structures in place and what it would mean for our subdivision. So thank you to all my neighbors as well for speaking up.
Thank you. Public hearing remains open. Go ahead.
Marilyn Keppel, 5283 Crocus Court. We have bought our lot in 73. I got pregnant, so we didn't build until 74. But I've been a resident for over 50 years. Raised children, have grandchildren coming and going. I'm concerned about the children's park. When you go into Howard, we haven't talked about the safety on that end of it. It's been basically the end with HH. There are a lot of children in our subdivision that play at that park. Cars that don't want to go through all the stoplights, and probably none of us like having 6 stoplights between here and the shopping center, will go through our subdivision. There's no way to avoid that. But that is a true safety concern for the whole subdivision. We've got seniors in scooters, we've got kids learning to ride bikes, kids learning to drive cars. You can't put all that traffic here, and now you're looking at doing something even worse, which is bringing more traffic in from Highway 39 who wants gas. You know, Quick Trip, I'm sorry, they have...
Ma'am, rezoning.
Well, the rezoning is...
Talking about the rezoning.
Okay, the rezoning is causing, we're looking at the picture of a Quick Trip there, or a gas station.
Rezoning.
With the rezoning. And that's a safety concern.
B4 commercial, which allows a lot of things other than Quick Trips.
Okay, I want to put in my vote for no Quick Trip. You know, housing.
We'll make a note of that at the future meeting.
I mean, it isn't just the safety on HH, it's the safety of every kid and adult in our whole subdivision. And you're jeopardizing it with making this zoning change.
Thank you. Public hearing is still open. Public hearing remains open. You're not, they don't look old enough to speak. I mean, come on up.
My name is Jessica McCaffrey, and I live on 3249 Sunflower Road. And I have 8 children, so I can speak about the safety. I have never once felt unsafe with my children. They're probably the ones that you see around the neighborhood constantly. I homeschool my children, so we're home all day. And if I had to keep them inside because I was worried about, you know, workers and traffic and such, I would probably go insane. So I love our neighborhood. I love it, and I agree about the park, and it makes me very nervous. So I ask that you please reconsider the rezoning.
Thank you. Public hearing remains open. They just don't get in the other room, do they? Public hearing remains open. For the third and final time, the public hearing is open. Hearing and seeing no one else wishing to speak, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed. Before we bring it back to the commissioners, there are a few things I'd like to say. First of all, thank you all very much for taking an active role in your neighborhood and your community. I've lived in Stevens Point my entire life. I've seen the evolution of things. You know, people talk about, oh, remember out east, everything used to be farmland. Yeah, it was. I would guess that one of the speakers said that it was zoned agricultural before it came into the city. Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know. That was before my time. And my guess is that when it came into the city, the zoning got changed. But we can get an answer for you. I don't remember who that was. That was you, Mr. Kujeski, right?
Right, when the city...
We'll get that answer for you, and we'll get in touch with you. I'm pretty sure I still have your number. But my guess is that all of your houses were also agricultural at one point. And progress came along. Well, it maybe forest. Maybe forest. But either way, putting a house on that property changed what it used to be to what it is. And out near the Fleet Farm, the old Fleet Farm, you guys remember that, A lot of that stuff was agricultural or forested. My house in the heart of the city at one point wasn't a house. It was forest, probably. And that's progress. Things change. And it's not always for the best, but change is inevitable. And to say that everything should remain the same is not realistic. Now, could it be something different? Absolutely. Did anybody buy it to make it something different? I don't see that. Every one of you could have biked here, or walked here, or taken a skateboard here. Why didn't you? Well, because it's yours. You want to get here however you want to get here. I choose to own a truck. I use that truck for work in, we've got 40 acres out near Junction City. And I use that for working and hauling. And I like that. Could I get by with a Yugo? Yes. But that truck is mine. I chose it. You don't get to tell me what to drive. And we shouldn't be able to tell you what to do with your property. You want to put a playground in the back of your house, you should be able to do that within reason. You want to hang a picture in your living room, you should be able to do that within reason because you own it. It's yours. And to say that this property or any other property should be this, that's not your choice. You don't own it. It shouldn't be we should make it residential. Well, yeah, maybe it could be residential. Maybe that is a better use. But that's not the proposed use by the people that own it. And it's important that people understand that because I frequently get asked, outside of tonight, you should open up a Chick-fil-A or a Waffle House or a Costco. The city doesn't do that. We don't own these things. We don't create the businesses. We create an environment that people can do what they want to a certain extent again. Put up a house, put up a business, put up a car wash. I don't know why we need another car wash. Maybe we don't. But the fact is the business owners who create those car washes think they can make a living at it and turn a profit. Same would be true for, boy, I'm going to make someone mad, Chinese restaurants or tattoo parlors. Do we have enough? I don't know. At one point, do we have enough housing? I don't know that either. But as long as people think they can make a living at it, they're going to put these things up. I don't know if this is the highest best use. I don't know how it's going to affect the neighborhood. Me personally, I like the fact that the co-op is a block and a half away. If I want a gallon of milk, I don't have to drive a quarter mile to the nearest convenience store. Would it work for me? I'd probably be okay with something like that, but I'm more in the core of the city too. This is a nice neighborhood out here. I agree. And it's my understanding that the property owners had a meeting, and they modified their original designs. There's about a 250 to 300 foot buffer currently between the proposal and the nearest property line that's not theirs. I think that's a reasonable compromise. But it's not just my decision. It's this commission and subsequently the Common Council. So what I will do now is I will turn it over to the commission. Commissioners, thoughts, comments, or a motion? Yes, sir.
I make a motion to deny the rezoning request.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second for the sake of discussion.
For the sake of discussion. Okay, the motion is to deny. It's been seconded by Kneebone. Now discussion.
The one caller hit it spot on, I think. It is located smack dab up gradient of the Whiting Municipal Well. It is within their zoning district A, and switching to B zoning allows land uses that are not suitable for wellhead protection districts. And zoning has prohibited items or permitted items. And there's a big difference between yes and no. And prohibited means no, and that applies to the Whiting wellhead protection zoning A. Their overlay district B It may be said that we don't have to adhere to Whiting's over wellhead protection overlay districts, but I think our groundwater protection ordinance says that we do. Therefore, changing to B is not an acceptable alternative because it allows unsuitable purposes, and you cannot rely on conditions to prohibit a permitted use.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's my understanding that we have been in contact with representatives from the village, not necessarily the village board or chairs, but the people in the utility. And it's my understanding that they had said Point does a pretty good job, I'm paraphrasing, Point does a pretty good job protecting our water supply, so if they're okay with it, we're okay with it.
It's a prohibited use in...
Not an official comment on the part of the village of Whiting, just what my public works or public utility director said.
It's a prohibited use in the groundwater overlay district A.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Thank you. Administrator Kuhn, we currently have 2 or 3 gas stations in our wellhead protection area, correct?
We have the
Stevens
still
Point.
our store, former our
Whiting's
store off of Burlowski. There's the same establishment off of Badger, Quick Trip off of Old Highway 18, plus I believe the Shell and the Quick Trip off of Stanley Street are east of Minnesota. If that's the case, then those 2 fall within the city's groundwater protection district, Zone B.
Sure. So, yeah. And I remember that when I was on city council that we put in, when it came to that point, tons of conditions in regards to multi-hulling tanks, concrete containment systems in addition to the tanks, and then monitoring wells adjacent to it, because once you pee in a pool, you can't unpee. That's important. And protecting our groundwater is paramount.
And it makes a difference of whose pool it is. So if the city wants to, the city gas stations are a conditional permit in overlay district B. So if we want to do that, but now here, the city, one municipality is establishing something for somebody else's pool. This is Whiting. And now, again, this is within their wellhead protection district A, which is a prohibited use. Their wellhead protection district B also includes prohibited use. Gas stations are prohibited use. And so I hear what you're saying. If the city wants to make that decision for their own municipal well, they should be allowed. And in fact, that's an issue that's come up. I was involved in the county wellhead protection efforts, wellhead districts. We went through it, and the question that often came up, how come towns aren't allowed to install these gas stations? The city uses their extraterritorial rights to deny it, and yet as soon as it gets annexed, the city allows it to go in. Well, that's because it's the city's pool, and they can decide who's swimming in it and just what kind of protections they want to use. We don't have any gas stations in our wellhead protection overlay district A. I'll be willing to bet, and if they are, they're grandfathered in somehow. And, kind of flipping it around a little bit, if Hull wanted to install a gas station across from the airport or across from the new well.
I'm gently going to remind you that we're only talking about zoning. We know that the proposal is there.
And so?
But we're only talking about the zoning.
We're talking about overlay wellhead protection districts, and if the city was in the same spot, they would not allow such a use in their wellhead protection district A.
Thank you. I just noticed the duck, by the way, Commissioner Arnson.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I'm on a roll tonight.
And I appreciate your insight on the groundwater, because that's exactly why I asked you to be on this commission.
Yep, and I'm trying to do my part.
Commissioner Schuler.
So, I appreciate Pete's perspective on this very much, and I have a couple things I think I'd like to talk about. But the first, as a commissioner, I'm curious if the city attorney can offer any clarification. I'll wait. I was wondering if the city attorney can offer any clarification on jurisdiction of...
I don't know that the city attorney's here. City attorney, are you in the overflow room?
I was waiting for him to finish his sentence.
He's here.
So Pete is mentioning that this land within Stevens Point, seemingly subject to the city's wellhead protection ordinances, have a certain way of looking at B-level commercial development on the property, and the Village of Whiting would classify it if it were within the Village of Whiting. And so my question as a commissioner, as we go to consider Pete's motion, is that a way that we should or could look at it, applying the restrictions of the Village of Whiting to this piece of property in Stevens Point?
That would be a fantastic topic for me to discuss with you in a closed session where I can provide confidential legal advice.
That is an answer.
It is an answer.
But it's
well, there was
duly noted, but I guess from my perspective,
there was quite great pains taken earlier tonight to constrain the public hearing comments to the zoning issues. And now we have a motion on the table with explanatory remarks that delve headlong into the proposed use. And it's a little tough to react to that here at the podium in another session. I have thoughts on this. I have researched it, but I don't think that those should be for public consumption quite at this point.
I think
it's important to note, Commissioner, too, that change to B4 zoning does allow things to be placed in that zoning district, even if it wasn't a gas station under a conditional use, which is a conditional use, by the way. But there are things that are allowed without a conditional use. I was under the impression that that was Commissioner Arnson's comments relating to the allowed uses then in B4.
And that's the way I took their motion too, is that it's the commercial zoning that is incompatible with the wellhead regulations. And so my question then became, okay, it's sort of extending Whiting's concern into the jurisdiction of what's covered by a different document, the city's document. And that's where what my quandary is, because in order to support Pete's motion, it would have to be kosher for concerns of a different jurisdiction's regulations within the city of Stevens Point, who has a similar regulatory document, but differing in how they restrict it, right? So to support that supports the fact that it's A and not C like the city considers it, right? And so I just want to make sure I know how free I am to vote based on the discussion we've had. I don't want to support a different jurisdiction's regulations within the city of Stevens Point if that indeed is the case. Again, I'm not speaking for or against Pete's motion, but I'm saying as I go to look at voting, I need to know if I'm applying the right rules to this piece of property.
If I could supplement that a little bit.
Well, hang on, because I see Logan thinking, but I want to be clear that we are not talking about a gas station.
Right.
We are talking about the permitted uses in B4 that could be implemented without a conditional use hearing or consideration. I don't know, Commissioner Arnson, that any of those permitted uses are disallowed in any wellhead protection area.
I don't know that, and I looked at it, I guess, I don't know that any of those permitted uses are included as prohibited uses in the Wellhead Protection District. There are additional permitted uses, conditionally permitted uses in B4 that would be prohibited from wellhead. So gas stations, I think copying facilities or photography facilities, maybe dry cleaners. I didn't have the list. The point being, and this for the attorney is, my objection is the zoning change to this zoning classification is unacceptable because there are unacceptable permitted uses in that zoning group.
But the permitted uses are what?
Conditional, gas stations.
No,
Right.
those are conditional.
They are conditional. But
conditional is not under consideration tonight.
No, but it's the
Permitted
difference
uses
between
are.
permitted and prohibited uses. Those are the two differences. If it's permitted, we've discussed this. If something's conditionally permitted, that's a
Conditionally
tough.
permitted is the line in the sand there, Commissioner.
Right.
Conditionally permitted. That means it's subject to a review and potential denial.
But
permitted uses are those that are allowed without oversight from this body.
Correct.
Those are the ones that you should be considering tonight regarding the zoning change. Conditionally permitted uses, that's a whole other meeting.
I disagree, because again, in zoning, there's prohibited and there's permitted. And we've discussed this, been brought up a number of times. It is very difficult for us to deny a conditional use permit. We can put all the conditions we want on it, but we have a tough time denying it.
All right.
Therefore, again, I break it down. There are permitted uses, there are prohibited uses. The current zoning, it's a prohibited use, no question. I mean, there are ways, homeowners are terrible. They can mess up anything like anybody, but that's
Present
a
company
permitted
accepted.
use. And so that's where I'm drawing the distinction, is that, and I don't know if there is another commercial classification. You know, the land use plan talks about different commercial. I don't know if there are different zoning classifications that we could change it to that would not include those unacceptable permitted items.
There may be, but those haven't been requested.
Right. So, and that's why, here, today, now, changing to B4 or B2 would allow permitted uses that are not accepted, not approved in Wellhead Protection Overlay District A or Overlay District B in Whiting. The site is located right on it. I think it hits it, and therefore the parcel qualifies as being in its entirety in Wellhead Protection District A.
Thank you. Attorney Beveridge, have you had enough time to contemplate a response to Commissioner Schuler?
Yes. Okay, so without getting into the items or the topics you've raised about conditional use permits, obviously that's not what's before you tonight. I would encourage you to look at the standards that are in the report. Now, this report recommends approving this. You do not have to agree with that. I work with Adam. Adam is very good at what he does. But you can have different opinions about the factors in this than he has. So you're not bound to go lockstep with the recommendations from the staff. That's always the case with these boards, commissions. If there's a time that we think that you are legally obligated to do something, trust me, we will tell you. If you look at, now I'm cheating, I have the zoning code in front of me here. There are standards for making amendments to the zoning map. Now, the report covers those, but just so everybody here can hear it out loud, and you can all hear it out loud quickly, I'm going to actually just read through this section. It won't take me that long. So it says, the Common Council of the City of Stevens Point may, from time to time, alter, supplement, or change the boundaries of the districts and the regulations contained in this zoning ordinance in the manner provided by law. The Plan Commission shall not recommend the adoption of a proposed amendment unless it finds that the adoption of such amendment is in the public interest, and further shall not recommend a proposed amendment without due recognition of the master plan of the city and without due recognition of the impact that change may have upon the neighborhood and the public facilities serving the area. Factors which the Plan Commission shall consider include but are not limited to the following. It's A through H. A, the impact of the proposed amendment and potential subsequent amendment requests will likely have on area parking, street capacity, street access, neighborhood traffic levels, pedestrian mobility, and other traffic-related matters. B, the impact the proposed amendment and potential subsequent amendment requests will likely have upon area drainage, its impact on the surrounding properties and the natural environment, and the capacity of public systems to accommodate the drainage. C, population density changes. D, school population changes. E, cost to provide adequate sanitary and storm sewer and water to the area. F, adequacy or recreation, this says or, it should be of, adequacy of recreational facilities serving the proposed area. G, other factors which affect the public health, safety, and welfare. And H, other factors which are enumerated in the purpose and intent statement of this zoning code. The Plan Commission may use any of the above factors as reason for denial or modification of the amendment request. So basically, I would just encourage you to make a decision based on those factors. That's what our ordinance guides you to do. Some of those are pretty broad. Those are addressed one by one in here. And I would just say that if you're, as you look at these, if you find that one of those factors, in your opinion, is not met by this proposal, say so on the record. Explain that. That makes for a good, clear record and ties it in with the rules that you operate under. But again, with regards to the conditional use permit factors, I do have some concepts that I could share with this body, but it would make a lot more sense for me to do that in a closed session to advise you confidentially.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Schuler.
I have if you could remain available for a sec. Adam, what is and just let me finish my line of thought. What is the groundwater designation for this property? Is it A, B, or C?
So it's in the city's groundwater protection district, Zone C.
It is Zone C.
Correct.
And again, I come back to this because part of the rationale and the motion is discussions of A, right, which is the most prohibited district. And if our mapping has it at C, I assume that it's the Stevens Point ordinance and mapping that control the protection of groundwater on this site. Was that correct?
Our groundwater protection districts are based upon the location of the wells that the city owns. They don't take into consideration the location or existence of ones owned by other jurisdictions.
Okay, so the...
Apologies to Joel if I'm misstating that at all.
So the proximity to the Whiting well is not a concern of the Stevens Point groundwater protection ordinance. If the zones are based on proximity to Stevens Point wells, would that be a logical
That's
assumption?
my understanding. I don't have that code in front of me right at this moment. But,
Okay, because I'm trying to understand where Pete's motion, what it's based on and where it's taken us.
I may have a clarification of that. If you want to pull up the Stevens Point Wellhead Protection Ordinance, I don't know if you can do that, or attorney can look it up, but it says that this Wellhead Protection Ordinance is designed to essentially protect the municipal wells of Amherst, Junction City, Whiting, Plover. It lists them all. It lists all that have a wellhead protection plan. And that, to me, says that the city will comply with the wellhead protection designations of other communities. It doesn't specifically say that, I don't think, but it says something pretty darn close to that.
I am right now messaging our water and wastewater director. He asked if he should be here. I said, boy, I don't know, maybe, nah, it's okay, I think he can go. And here we are, we need him.
I will remind you that that list of factors I referenced just moments ago does include one which states other factors which affect the public health, safety, and welfare. I think that language encompasses things that are outside the boundaries of the city.
Okay, Director Lemke is going to log on. So your question, Commissioner Arntzen and Commissioner Schuler, is basically, well, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but it's relating to what the whiting zone, if any, is for wellhead protection?
I think it's pretty clear.
And are we obligated to follow that? Is that kind of where we're getting at?
Right, because I don't think I can support a motion that would have us enforce someone else's regulations on a piece of property where we have our own regulations.
So I think I'm pretty safe in saying that we are not obligated to follow or adhere to ordinances of any sort from any other municipality. And I say that from past experiences on other things. However,
read the wellhead protection ordinance.
Is it the right thing to do? Well, maybe.
It's another thing. That's my next stage of arguments. Let's find this first one.
Depending on what it is. I'm waiting for him to log in.
And again,
we're catching him off guard, I'm guessing.
And again, I'm coming from the position of my vote has to be based on something that we can accomplish or something that's appropriate for the action to take. And part of the other side of the thinking on that would be that regardless of what that property is zoned, or even if it were to be zoned for commercial, the prohibitions in the city's wellhead protection ordinance serve as an overlay on the property and control, in some ways, develop how things can develop on the site, I assume. Is that a safe assumption?
Do you know what the prohibition of overlay district C is? There are hazardous waste disposal facilities are not allowed, nor are nuclear waste disposal facilities allowed. Those are the two limitations of overlay district C. You might want to check that. I think that's what I said. I think that's what the county said, but it ain't squat.
So while we're waiting for Director Lemke to log on and talk to us about the wellhead protection, I'm going to talk about some of the other things. This is, like it or not, in a non-residential corridor. To the west is a non-residential use. To the south and west, there's a strip mall there. Definitely a non-residential use. You are surrounded on two sides directly by 4-lane main artery roads. And not too far away is an interstate highway. It totally makes sense that this is a commercial corridor. And I think it was true back in 2006, 2005, when the comprehensive plan noted this as future designation of commercial use. I think it's true today. I think if you ask just about anybody, they see this as a commercial area. What type of commercial remains to be seen. But we're talking about the zoning to commercial tonight. We're not talking about what the future use might be, even though it's already been disclosed.
Specifically B1 and B4. And are there other commercial classifications?
There are other commercial classifications.
And the housing.
Those haven't been requested at this point, Commissioner.
Right, no, that's, I'm sticking with
the request is for B4.
That's what I'm sticking
so we make our decision based on that. There's Director Lemke. So I'm going to put him on now. Give him a second to log in. And Director, are you with us?
I am.
All right, I am going to ask Commissioner Arntzen to restate his comments and Commissioner Schuler to restate his, and then I'm going to ask you to respond.
Sure.
Commissioner Arntzen.
Thanks, Joel. I recommend denying the zoning change because business districts allow land uses that are incompatible with the wellhead protection district overlay district A, which is what the village of Whiting has. And this site falls under that. And so my contention is that because of what we say in our wellhead protection ordinance and the support that we give to other municipalities with their wellhead protection overlays, that we are impelled to comply with their overlay districts.
Commissioner Schuler then?
Hi, Joel. My question as I consider whether to support the motion to deny is part of the motion is premised on acknowledging that it's in Whiting's Wellhead A. We have checked, and this property in question is in Stevens Point Wellhead C. And so my basic question is, can a different jurisdiction's mapping be enforced in an adjacent jurisdiction's property? So if Stevens Point has C on this property, it's the Stevens Point wellhead protection regulations that are applied to the property, and not the mapping of Whiting that's A. And again, I'm not trying to argue against it, I'm just trying to understand, if I vote for this, am I voting for the right interpretation of the regulations that would apply? Because the motion is premised on prohibition of types of uses that aren't applicable to the district that Point has it mapped at. Do you understand my quandary?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, so addressing both questions at the same time, it's kind of the same answer, right? And I'll tell you this, a little background on this. When we were going through the latest update to the broader Portage County, effort, and it pertains to municipalities individually, we didn't anticipate the conflict of one municipality potentially needing to, or wanting to, or feeling obligated to enforce the wellhead protection zone of another municipality. It just never came up. To be honest with you, it seems a bit obvious to do, but that doesn't make it very black and white, right? It does feel, from my perspective, like, yeah, that's the right thing to do, but it didn't exactly feel that way as far as we have the ability to. So to answer both of your questions, Mr. Aronson, yes, I think that as folks who are in the business of protecting the resource that we distribute to our customers, it seems very appropriate to want to maintain the Zone A approach. And to Mr. Schuler's comment, I'm not 100% positive that we've got black and white language in the Stevens Point side to enforce Whiting's. And I don't know of I don't know of a parallel situation where we can say, well, because we do it here, we can handle it like that. I just don't know one of those. Of course, zoning enforcement really isn't my thing either. I will say that if we look at it as just strictly enforcing the City of Stevens Point's rules here and putting on their conditions that we have in similar situations in the past, I don't feel as though there's an undue danger. That said, that's because in Point it's one zone and in Whiting it's another. And we've had conversations with Whiting and understanding the challenges here. I think they've understood the conditions we've put on similar properties in the past and have some level of comfort with that. So I know that's not exactly a very straightforward answer, but it's also not a very easy question. There's good points to both questions there.
Thank you, Director Lemke.
Okay. City Attorney Beveridge, is there anything you want to add to that?
Joel, this is Andrew. Apologies if you covered this. I had to step out in the hall and have a conversation real briefly. Are there connections between the Whiting water system and the Stevens Point water system?
There are emergency connections, physical connections, so that, for example, if Whiting lost their ability to pump and produce water, that we could turn a valve and supply them with water, yes.
Okay.
So I want to point out Dean Curtis, who was the village president, is no longer the village president. When this was proposed, the then village president sent this email that said, all such permitting approvals and other related correspondences should be directed towards the appropriate contacts within the Stevens Point as the governing municipality over the site. We trust Stevens Point's conditional use permitting system and their staff to ensure the safety, integrity, and quality of the water aquifer as it remains intact. But I want to point out, if we're talking about using our ordinance to enforce another municipality's ordinance, Commissioner, the Village of Whiting's wellhead protection, which is Chapter 31 of their code, specifically states application and regulations. The regulations specified in the wellhead protection ordinance shall apply only within the Village of Whiting corporate limits to all lands that lie within 1,500 feet of a Whiting well field and within the 5-year time of travel for that well field. So even their own ordinances say it only applies in the Village of Whiting.
The Stevens Point ordinance says we should comply with other ordinances.
Yes, and their ordinance says that their ordinance will apply only in the Village of Whiting. You say, of course it does, but our ordinance talks about using other municipalities' ordinances. Their ordinance specifically says this only applies to us, where ours says it applies to others. We want to be respectful of what other people's ordinances are, and their ordinance says only in the Village of Whiting. That's what it is. Commissioners, other comments? Commissioner Rice.
Yeah, I'll jump into something completely different. Staff provided the preliminary land division for this parcel, kind of based on the current proposed future use, but that is not taken place, correct? That redivision of the 18 acres.
Correct.
And so before us is the rezoning of the entirety of that parcel as currently subdivided, correct?
That is the request, yes.
I guess I do have some concerns about that, and I think they were echoed by a lot of the neighborhood, and that gets back to kind of the compatibility of adjacent property, the intensity of use that could potentially be allowed in the B4 district. And although I think there's plenty of merit to the argument that this, kind of the entirety of this intersection, the corners of this intersection, at least the most immediate pieces of property adjacent to this intersection, lend themselves to some level of commercial use or business use. This is a significant piece of property currently that does abut residential, and relatively low density residential use. I think when we discussed a future land use change some months ago or a year ago, there was plenty of discussion then, and there was some tonight about opportunities for additional residential use on some or all of this property. I think that argument has merit, and I think it parallels lots of other discussions that we've had here about using, creating levels of intensity with our zoning. So in looking at, again, to some extent looking ahead a little bit at what is being proposed here, although it's been expressed that the Lot 3 or the Phase 2 could potentially create that future buffer, giving the full B4 zoning designation to the entire parcel prior to having it re-subdivided gives me pause, and I'm very hesitant to move forward with that. Again, I think it opens the door somewhat to Commissioner Arnson's argument that we have a hard time clawing back control and putting limitations on use if we do kind of grant a full book of permitted use and even some conditional uses in what is a relatively intense zoning jurisdiction. So I think on the surface there's a lot of merit, and for those of you in the neighborhood, I think some of you made good comments and are being thoughtful and understand that there's probably need for some compromise here. And again, there's plenty of evidence that suggests there's probably some commercial use on or near that corner in the near future, if not tomorrow, soon. But we can still approach this thoughtfully, and I think I'm inclined to agree with the denial just for the fact that prior to re-subdivision and granting the full 18-acre parcel, that B4 designation is just not very cautious on our part.
Commissioner, just for clarification, are you suggesting that you would be okay with the B4 zoning for all three parcels if they were already divided?
No, I likely would not be.
Okay. And for the reasons that you stated?
Correct. I think, at least in the preliminary land division, the phase 2 or the lot 3, the buffer area, my kind of personal view based on, again, public comment, is that parcel specifically would likely not be appropriate for a B4 use.
Thank you. Commissioner Schuler.
I guess I'd like to make some comments, but it's difficult. The comments I want to make don't necessarily go along with a motion for denial, but I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to say what's on my mind when the vote comes. So I would
Let's give it a shot, and then
okay.
if there's something that we're getting off topic on, either myself or the city attorney will ask you this.
So first I want to say thank you to everybody who's here and the comments that you made, and I really appreciate, we got 40 pages of comments that were given to us prior to the meeting, and some amazingly thoughtful, very personal as well as really logical ideas, very much mirrored with the comments that were made during the public hearing tonight. And I wanted to, just from my perspective as a commissioner, let you know where this is in my mind. As was pointed out in the staff report, when the comprehensive planning law was passed, the requirements for a future land use map, also the requirement that rezonings need to come into compliance with the future land use map. Someone pointed out that it could stay developed as it is, and that's true. I think the way that land use and zoning has played out from the very beginning since 2000 is that communities should think about what they want land use to be in the future and not have to rezone everything right away, but if it ever changed zonings, to make it in compliance with what you thought the future land use should be. And so, great. We've been informed that the original future land use map had this as commercial and high-density residential. And that's from 2006. Well, the Southeast planning process from last year came to the same conclusion. The mapping never changed. And I just want to read something from the report. This is on page 57, I think, of the Southeast planning document. For these specific 3 properties, the parcels above include about 18 acres of land, while the future land use is designated to be commercial Redevelopment of these parcels needs to generate a smooth transition between commercial land along County HH and residential subdivision to the north and east. A mix of primary single-family housing and some missing middle housing, duplexes, quadplexes, single-family cottage courtyard buildings, or townhomes should be encouraged. There's, of course, a picture of the property, and it says, the site in the image above separates a single-family subdivision from major transportation routes. Redevelopment of these parcels should prioritize residential construction and be prepared to accommodate access to Hoover Road and County HH. So the plan itself acknowledged through its mapping that the best idea long-term was likely commercial, but it was very important to include residential. And so as we look at this as commissioners, I think someone brought up the Warzella rezoning, which we had previously, which is very similar. We had a future land use versus an existing zoning, and a neighborhood very concerned about it. And so as I look at this, I know that through the public input, through the actual planning that took place, folks want at least some residential on this property, if indeed it had to be commercial, and several people tonight have mentioned that. And again, as a commissioner, I look at a request for rezoning of the entire parcel without any way to guarantee that residential can be part of phase 2. And I'll sort of nod toward the city attorney when I get to the next part here. You know, one idea would be don't take any action on this, leave it as it is, and rethink the land use. Well, the land use has been rethought, as I just described it, within a year. But even if it hadn't, there's no legal way for the city to call a moratorium on develop just so they can change the land use on a single property. I think that's been a legal truth for many years throughout this entire comp planning and zoning process. So this is my quandary. I think my eyes have crossed far enough where they're all the way back where they should be in the front of my head. I understand the resource concerns. I understand the neighborhood concerns for wanting to have some sort of a buffer. And several people have mentioned a buffer from commercial to them. And I understand that we have a state statute that says, hey, if a rezoning comes up, it needs to comply with your future land use map, and that says for the entire property commercial. So that's where I'm, as we've had several of these over the last 2 years, it's a difficult decision, and I hope, I don't know, that we all appreciate that. There's a lot of different things in play, and the whammy of the day is Pete's introduction of Wellhead A into the discussion, you know. So I guess those are the points that I wanted to make, that it's a difficult decision with a lot of things saying it could be an easy decision to make it all commercial, and then another saying, okay, based on our current planning, not just opinion from neighbors, but the planning that has been through the Common Council, there needs to be residential on this property as well. And with that, I'll cede back to that empty chair.
Still the wellhead would take precedent over that. Just one question that I have, and this is kind of going to address to Commissioner Rice, your comment, but I think this can be more squared to the group as a whole. I guess, would the level of concern be subsided if the rezoning request applies only to lots 1 and 2 on the proposed, on the preliminary CSM? So the phase 2 development, the portion of the land that is not identified at this time as far as what specific land use would be there, if that would be excluded as part of the rezone, as part of the rezoning request to that district. I guess, would there be a similar level of concern, or would that be elevated, subsided?
I think it would alleviate some of my concern, but I guess it would cause me to have to think, and I think there'd have to be some additional discussion then about really is B4 versus B1 the appropriate rezoning designation versus, yeah, just rezoning the full parcel. But
And before we get too far, we're talking about permitted uses in B4.
Correct.
And the gas station would be allowed in B4, but the wellhead protection would require it to be a conditional use. Is that what?
Correct. So, yeah. So how we have it listed is if you have the same type of land use that's listed as both permitted and conditional, the more restrictive code, the more restrictive regulation would apply in that instance.
Okay, so in this case, while B4 would technically allow the gas station, it would still be conditional use because it falls within the wellhead protection zone.
Correct.
Let me jump in first. So I think that's wrong. Looking at it, I thought gas stations were a conditional use in B4 and B1.
B1 but not B4, I was just checking.
B1 but not B4.
Right.
It's a permitted use in B4?
It is.
Permitted in B4, conditional in B1, because the wellhead zone C overlays both parcels.
Would still be a
CUP would still.
So, hang on, Commissioner Schuler wanted to say something?
Well, that was part of the thing I was going to say before is if you just two-dimensionally picked a piece of property that met the intent of the B4 district, this would be it, right?
Yeah, and that...
The thing that complicates it is the surrounding context. But if you look at all the B districts and you looked at this piece of property, it's a no-brainer before because of the requirement that it be on arterial streets, right?
Correct. And I lay that out in the staff report. Kind of my line of thinking is that commercial land use is proposed and is identified in the future land use as such. Therefore, the commercial zoning districts would be fair game. Our B2, B3, and B5 districts only apply to certain areas of the city, not this area. That leaves B1 and B4 as the only two applicable. Right. Because of its proximity to arterial streets, that's really where the B4 rises to be the recommended one.
And again, because it's kind of awkward because we're having discussion in the middle of a proposal, motion to deny, based on what Commissioner Rice was saying, if there were to be an approval of a reduced area, this is in response to your question, I'm not advocating for it necessarily. If there were just a reduction in the area rezoned to B4, it would have to also be conditioned on this land use going forward so we could properly define what the area of B4 was.
Correct. And I'll say that the preliminary certified survey map that was submitted, it would meet the minimum dimensional standards for the B4 district, so lot size, lot width requirements. So, if that preliminary CSM was submitted to me tomorrow, there wouldn't be anything standing that would prohibit me from signing off on it.
That's irrespective of the zoning.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner, are you suggesting then that maybe we just send it back and suggest that the parcels be split out first and bring back a zoning change request for the parcels? Yeah.
No,
you or Commissioner Rice, I mean,
from my perspective,
that's what the discussion has been leaning towards.
From my perspective, it could be certainly a condition of an action taken tonight, if we ever got to that, but we're not anywhere near that because we are in the middle of a motion to deny.
So then you're suggesting that you would support that's a lousy way to say it. You would prefer that a condition be placed that the parcels be split prior to the zoning changes?
Well, that's lousier, actually. I think.
Okay.
Right now, again, we're talking about a denial with some side conversation on what other options might be.
Right.
So we really need to figure out a denial, have a vote on the denial, and then we can talk about what other options there might be, because that would be a motion with a motion, and really, we have one motion out there now with a second.
Right, and then I wasn't asking you to make another motion or amend the motion, but what I was suggesting is that if we are going to consider another option, it would be recommended then to deny the denial motion. Vote down the motion to deny. That allows you to do other options. If you support the motion to deny, it's denied.
Correct.
And then we're done, and then we move on to item number 5, which people have been patiently waiting for.
But kind of more to that point, if you're talking about looking at other options, then denying this rezoning request is kind of required.
Right, but we are not allowed to talk about that then tonight. After the motion is made and the motion is successful, we're done with that motion, that agenda item, and you move on to the next agenda item.
Would it have to be withdrawn?
You can't withdraw a motion without... This is a frustrating point for me, because, yes, Robert's Rules allows the body to vote to suspend the rules, and then you vote to suspend the rules, and then you vote to withdraw the motion, which is 2 votes rather than just doing the 1 vote. It gets very, very complicated when you want to try and withdraw a motion. Is it allowed? Technically, yes. Is it efficient? Not even a little. If your intent is to discuss other options tonight, I would recommend that you vote down the denial. That allows you then to talk about other items, other options. If that leads us to a postponement or a recommendation, sending it back to staff, that's fine. But if you vote to uphold the denial motion, we are done with that item for tonight, and the earliest you can talk about it is at the next meeting.
And some folks might think we've talked about a lot about other options a fair bit. And
that's completely appropriate as far as I'm concerned.
Right. So,
because we need to know what we want to do. If this isn't the right thing, then maybe we should talk about what is, so we can let everybody know what we would consider appropriate. So, Alderperson Nebo, you've been waiting patiently.
Even in B1, a gas station is a conditional use, and we know what happens with conditional uses. It's almost impossible to deny them. So whether it's B1 or B4, if a gas station wants to be there, a gas station is going to be there. I don't have a problem with Lot 1 and Lot 2. I think those are suited for commercial development on the corner of HH and Hoover, and maybe even the 2 smaller lots along to the east of Lot 1. But that Lot 3, in my mind, should be some kind of residential. I live off Highway 10, okay? So we've got highway commercial, and then we've got multifamily, and then we've got 0 lot lines, and then the next street is single-family homes. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think something like this would make something like that would make a lot of sense here. You build out the commercial on the corner of Hoover and HH, and then you buffer in the single-family residences there with some, maybe more single families or some 0 lot line townhomes, something like that to provide a residential buffer. So you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You create housing, hopefully affordable housing, and you still provide some commercial opportunities for the property owner. I don't think the whole 18 acres should be B4. I'd like to see it come back in a different form with maybe B4 and maybe a little higher R, maybe next month. But at this point, I'm not convinced that that whole thing won't become a big commercial development and totally destroy the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
So,
If I may add.
Absolutely.
City Attorney, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the consensus of the commission is that you're okay with rezoning proposed lots 1 and 2 to B4, but then not take any action on the proposed lot 3, that would be something that you could address as a motion tonight.
We don't have a CSM, do we?
We don't have a CSM, so what this would do...
So how do you know what lots 1 and 2 are?
So what this would do is it would create a split-zoned parcel right now. It'd be similar to the Bickford property on Highway 10 that this commission took action on a year and a half ago, where the recommendation was to rezone it B4 commercial. The consensus from the commission was, let's create a split zone designation and apply the B4 commercial zoning strictly to where the house is, but the remainder of that parcel to the north really to the north, that would retain its conservancy designation.
But how do we know what the parcels are when they aren't parcels yet?
It would be submitting the exact same CSM that's in the packet, just submitting that to the Register of Deeds office to be recorded. So the dimensional standard, the dimensions of the proposed lots are in the CSM.
Gotcha. City Attorney, comments?
So I haven't had a chance to research the topic in the way that I'm about to phrase it, which is the notion that somebody who owns a piece of property puts in a request to have it rezoned in a certain way, and then the result is that it gets rezoned in a way that they did not ask for. That seems a little weird. Now, you had asked me earlier today about notice requirements for the procedural elements under the statute. Now, I'm not necessarily sure that you'd have to renotice the meeting and do a second meeting in order to do that, but I think that the other question I just raised about just, as a basic rule, if someone asks for something to be rezoned, it kind of feels like you should either do it the way that they've asked their property to be rezoned or not do it at all. I don't have any legal principle to back that up. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why I raised the Bickford property as one example in the past where basically the similar approach was taken.
Yeah, I guess I'm just picturing, if somebody had something that, let's say, had been annexed to the city, it comes in as R1 LD, and they are asking for it to be rezoned to some light intensity residential use, and then the Common Council just decides to rezone it to a higher intensity residential use, and they're going, wait a minute, you've now raised the highest and best use of the land that I own, and it could affect my tax burden or whatever. It's just, I think we should keep in mind at the core of this, it is private land owned by a private property owner that is asking for a certain type of rezoning. And it feels weird to take an action to rezone without it being the one that they asked for, as opposed to just denying it entirely. Now, again, I don't have a legal principle for that. These questions were raised to me today. So take that for what you will. Obviously, this body does not have the final say on any of this stuff, so we at least have the safeguard of that. But that's my take on it.
Thank you. I'm going to make a few points here.
Okay.
To say that there should be a buffer is completely appropriate. However, that's not what's being asked tonight. They're asking for the entire parcel to be zoned commercial. To have commercial zoning immediately adjacent to or across the street from residential is not uncommon at all. There is, between Water Street and Division, there's a commercial corridor with that had the old Shopko. Some of us remember the old Cops. Happens to be a Quick Trip there. Immediately across Water Street, there's a residential area that was there before at least some of that commercial. North Division Street, when Festival Foods was built, again, across the street from a residential area. 4th and Division, there was literally a gas station next door to a single-family home. So it's not unheard of. The most recent one I can think of is the commercial development on the far east side of Highway 10 that abutted the town of Hull. The town of Hull subdivision residents came and they didn't want the noise and things like that. The conditions were placed on the development to protect the integrity of that neighborhood. The fence or a 50-foot row of trees as a buffer, whatever it happens to be. But to say that it's inappropriate to have this near residential isn't without precedent. We have that already existing in the city. I don't think anyone is questioning whether some or all of this parcel should be commercial. I think we've kind of settled on that. It sounds like at least, don't want to speak for the commissioners, but it sounds like at least most of us would be okay potentially with those two southern parcels being zoned commercial and maybe something else for the other parcel. I would suggest that if that is your wish or your thought, that we at least allow the developer to explore that. which would mean I would recommend denying the denial and sending it back to staff, allowing them to work with the developer to see if that's an option. Maybe it isn't. Maybe they're going to just push ahead. I don't know that that would be the case, but, or maybe they decide they want to do something else. Maybe they want to put it on the market for multifamily housing. I don't know what they want to do because the request tonight is all of it before. But if we deny the denial motion, that at least allows staff to take it back, work with the developers, see what they really want to do, and bring something back.
I think you're misrepresenting it a little bit. If it's denied, that doesn't prohibit the staff from working with the owner to come back with something new.
We could come back with something new, but you can't talk about that tonight.
We're about done talking about this, I think.
Some of us would agree with you.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes.
Just since, I don't want to put the applicant on the spot, but since the applicant is here, I mean, if you're willing to
That's definitely putting
provide
him on the spot.
commentary about some of the options that were raised, I think that would be helpful for the commission.
If you choose to, you are not obligated to.
You're not obligated.
If you are willing, you can approach the lectern.
Do I got their pitchforks?
Not everybody. There were several people that spoke in favor of it.
No, yes, okay, so my signs have been up on the property for like
sorry, name and address.
Oh, I apologize. My name is Victor Baeten. I own the properties, the 3 properties here. Like you, I paid my taxes. I do own the properties, and I want to be a good partner throughout all this. That's why we're doing phase 1 first. There are many other uses in B4 that we talked about, that was talked about today, that are going to create that buffer that just makes sense for those property, that L-shaped property that go around it. I don't have those today. That's why it is a phase 2 where we will have the option to come in for those plans, and there will be feedback when those do come in. So that's the whole point, is getting this commercial. I've heard, these don't generate a lot of property taxes. Well, let's rezone them so they do, right? And we want to create jobs we want to create sales tax for the community, and obviously make this a safer place for everybody. I got kids too, so I get the whole kids being on Forest Avenue or Forest. I don't want anything to happen to any kid out there. We are actually putting in sidewalks for people to walk through this and everything. We have partnered to make this more, like right now at the intersection, there's a zero entry that goes to nowhere on the corner. We're putting sidewalks across the whole front of McDill, County Road HH, and all the way up Hoover, potentially to connect to the neighborhood too. So we are thinking about accessibility, we're thinking about how this does affect the neighborhood, and we don't have plans for that future commercial L-shaped. If anyone, as I said in the neighborhood meeting, if anyone wants to buy a portion of the parcel, please feel free to reach out to me. Yes, we got to put it in a public street. It does cost money. So there is cost to that. We have to put that within the budget too. So I don't think it's reasonable to say that it has to be single family when it might not work economically too. And I think that's what some of maybe the residents found out, that it doesn't work economically for single family homes or even duplexes when you put in the city street too. So we don't know what it's going to be yet. There's no plans for it to be yet. We've been very transparent through this. This plan has changed 1,000 times in the last 4 years. And we're here now to kind of move forward to get phase 1 going. So maybe there is an apartment developer, not me. I don't want to do it, okay? If you want to do it, I'm more than happy to sell you some land to build that buffer and between the residents and move forward to, or if you know somebody that's an apartment developer, I'm more than happy to talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Should I stay up here? Or?
Does any of the commissioners have a question they want to ask? Okay, then I think you're good. All right, I think we've talked about this a fair amount. The motion before you is to deny the request for the rezoning from R1 Suburban Single Family to B4 Commercial District. I am going to do a roll call, and I will start, and I will say no. Kneebone?
I want to make sure, so a yes vote is a complete denial, but
Correct.
it can come back for more consideration at for the
same request cannot come back.
Why not?
I don't know. So where's the city attorney? Do you know why not? If it's denied, why can't the same request come back?
In a slightly different form?
Well, that's different. The same request can't come back.
I'm actually not aware of any rule that would prohibit that.
So we could consider the whole rezone, if it's denied tonight, we could have at the next meeting a request to rezone the entire parcel B4.
Well, I think I probably start to be asked some questions about, can we just decide not to entertain the request?
Okay, well then, can we do it the following month if it's denied the third or the second month? At what point?
Do you really want me to go down the how many angels on a head of a pin discussion right now?
And that was the logic that I had, whether it's legal or not. I was told that we couldn't bring the same request back if it was denied.
Just to clarify, me saying I'm not aware of a rule to that effect does not mean that it does not exist.
Okay.
I mean, Adam and I discussed that briefly earlier.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything in either 6223 or our code that prohibits a second request of the same type.
I'm just
I'm not aware of any case law or anything like that.
Your experience on city council, are we going to bring back the consideration of reducing the number of lanes on Business 51 this month? Next month? The month after? The month after that? I don't know that it's prohibited.
I mean,
I'm going to say that it seems illogical.
This was zoned residential to begin with. So the developer bought it knowing it was zoned residential.
With a future land use of commercial.
So I'm going to vote yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, we're not doing comments anymore. We're actually voting. I understand, Commissioner Shuley, you probably have something to add.
Only one question.
But I can't, you can do that before you vote, perhaps?
Perfect.
Well, geez. You're not supposed to ask questions while you're voting either.
It pertains to the vote, not the issue.
Okay, so if it's clarification on the vote, go ahead.
If the motion for denial carries, does it still go to council?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. You didn't trust me.
By the way, there actually is a rule about not discussing things during a roll call vote, so let's please adhere to that.
Okay, Rice?
Yes.
Schuler?
Yes.
And Arntzen?
Yes.
All right. So by my count, 4-1, the motion is approved, and that is a denial of the request. And that will go to council in 2 weeks. So I'm going to turn it over to our representatives from Somerville. Before we get started there, I just want to say that the Plan Commission is not being asked to consider anything tonight. We are getting a presentation of the design potential from Somerville in regards to 1039 Ellis, whether we want to build a new city hall or remodel the current city hall or existing building for City Hall. And we're doing it today only as, we'll call it more of a courtesy. So not only the Plan Commission has an opportunity to review where we are so far, but anyone watching at home or watching the recordings, we are still very much in the infancy, but I am expecting to ask the Finance Committee next week on whether to choose the option to build new or remodel the existing building on that same site. Then the council will be asked that same question in 2 weeks. So we want to have as much public participation as possible in regards to that. Once the decision is made whether to build new or to remodel, then there will be some other meetings in regards to how do we want it to look, what are we going to have here, are we going to have the drive-through car wash, I don't know. And the design will progress over the course of a couple of months at that point. But we are graciously allowed to have some representatives from Somerville here who traveled great distances through the Bay of Green to come here and join us. I had the privilege of touring. They're building in their own new headquarters, and I had the privilege of touring that last Wednesday. Quite an interesting facility. So, gentlemen, I will turn it over to you, and we have the PowerPoint shared.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time with this.
Why is this not doing what I expect it to do? Present the line from the beginning.
It takes a second.
Yeah. I thought it was doing that when I was flapping my lips, but.
So from memory, go.
Yeah, right.
There we go.
Well, yeah, so
Now
I was
we
going
got
to
it.
say, yeah, thank you for your time. My name's Justin Marcus. I'm an architect with Somerville Architects and Engineers. Been working with the mayor, Jared, and some of the rest of the staff to develop this presentation. So it might look a little familiar to some people that have been involved with this process so far. It's kind of a living document that we've been developing as we've gone. So we have presented some of this to some other committees just to really get the word out with the public about you know, what we have designed here and how we've been going about this. So this is the latest iteration of that presentation. So
you just say next.
So we have our project scope and goals with this. So next. So what we're looking at doing is we are scoped to provide a conditional assessment of the 1039 Ellis, and as well as come up with some conceptual designs for a new city hall. So as the mayor kind of alluded to, we're really just trying to figure out if it's feasible or not. So with the previous slide, there's two options, as he kind of mentioned: reuse of that existing building or building new, providing an opinion of probable cost and the timeline that we would expect construction to be for both those options. So talking with the staff, one of the things that came up was that we're looking to provide a warm, welcoming, and efficient building to house all city services that are currently at 1515 Strongs. But then also outwardly reflecting how City Hall, and one of the things that the mayor had mentioned was that this is a community service for the community. So this is a place that people are going to be coming to, so it needs to be easily navigable for people that come a few times a year, but it is still their building. And then the building also needs to be a pleasant and effective space for the staff that use it every single day. So looking at the current facility, so the 1515 Strong, where the City Hall currently is, and it shares its building, the building outline currently as it sits, and then the current space that we've evaluated. So it's approximately 16,400 square feet of gross building space. That's kind of important when we start developing more of the plans. So currently they're sharing toilets, mechanical chases, janitor's closets, some of those kind of ancillary facilities with the rest of the building. So 16,400 square feet of just currently what the city is using of that building.
To be fair, it is gross space. Totally gross.
And with that, the departments, one of the reoccurring items that was brought up with our meetings was that the departments are not efficiently connected. It's not easily navigable. People don't really understand where to go, how to get between the different departments as they're trying to move through the space. So we had several meetings, meeting with the staff, which we have a list there, just going over a preliminary program. So this was really a breakdown of each department sitting with Public Works saying, what do you need? How does your staff need their space to be utilized? How many offices, meeting rooms, all of that. And this was the list of that kind of internal staff that we met with on that first blush.
Justin, just one typo correction here. The fire chief, that's a little b. And I'm only telling you that because he's here. It is. Big J, little b.
J, little b. All right. Noted. So after having all the meetings with all of the staff, we developed a program list. So as you can see, this is kind of a little snapshot of it, and we went through each department saying, all right, you know, they need this many offices, here's a typical office size, and going through that. So we then took all of those spaces and compared them to what they currently have versus what their requested size, right? So we had each meeting with each department in isolation just saying, what do you need individually as a department to succeed. So as you can see, we graphically kind of showed that every department requested more space except for public engineering works that was happy with the size that they needed. So there were 4 other new departments that are not currently housed at 1515 Strongs that were visioned at being with this new facility. Kind of scaled graphically compared to the previous slide is all of those square footages with those 4 departments. The biggest one, as you can see, there's indoor parking, which is currently not provided at the 1515 Strongs. So just another way to illustrate that kind of breakdown. So the current departments that are going to be needed in there, and then the new spaces that are envisioned to be in there. So then developing that preliminary space breakdown, we came up with 27,300 square feet of net department space. So that's exactly the space that they need to do their job as well. Taking our typical office building net to gross factor, we scaled it up at 1.55, which is really just, all right, everybody's going to need spaces to walk around their cubicles. You know, they're going to need space to move within the building. It's not just a perfect office and you teleport there. So that brings us to 41,900 gross square feet. And then, as I mentioned before, with them sharing their toilet spaces, sharing their mechanical spaces, wall thicknesses, all of that brings us to another area factor, which gets us to 46,900 square feet of total square footage for the building. That is all in, everybody gets exactly what they asked for, perfect situation with everybody. That just compares to that 16,400 that they're currently in, again, gross square footage. With that departmental program breakdown, we also talked amongst them about how they work and who they need to be by. What are some efficiencies of finding the adjacencies within the departments? So this is the diagram that we developed as we were working with the staff. One of the things that we really noticed was there was kind of a core public function facing trio of departments that really needed to be by each other to have good synergy, as well as public works, but that one wasn't as public facing as typically, but still needed to be adjacent to public entrances. So we created this diagram to show what departments need to be by each other.
Justin, I want to go back one slide. This is a very important slide, the adjacencies. That's something that the departments have been asking for a very long time. When we talk about the square footage breakdown, I need to point out, because the numbers are pretty far apart, but I need to point out that the city currently doesn't have a break room. We took our former break room and made it into 3 separate cubicle offices. We have 1 meeting room. That 1 meeting room is used by absolutely everybody, with the exception of sometimes we have to go to the county side to use their meeting rooms. We had a staff meeting today in one of the county meeting rooms because ours was being occupied. We have 1 bathroom for men, 1 bathroom for women. We don't have a health room for mothers who are breastfeeding or people who need to give themselves insulin injections or whatever it happens to be, a private area. Right now, the conference room, the 1 meeting room we have, is also used as that. So when we add this additional space, that's talking about having more than 1 men's bathroom, more than 1 woman's bathroom, more than 1 meeting room, having smaller rooms, a larger conference room for the bigger meetings, but individual meeting rooms for our inspectors, for example, that are meeting with developers. Right now, they're doing it in the hallway. And so that's why the numbers seem a lot larger, is because we're actually getting those things in City Hall that we don't have right now. Sorry, I just thought we needed to talk about that. And yes, and as Alder Christensen pointed out, right now we go to a different building to hold our council meetings. This will include a council chambers, which is a big portion of that, and community media, who videos and records and edits all of our meetings, will be included in that as well.
Yes, I kind of glossed over that too in the diagram showing how each department sized up. There is a dashed box specifically just showing that council chamber room as a part of the municipal court, which is a pretty large size increased space. So July 22nd, so after we had kind of met with all of the departments, and then we had a presentation with some public listening sessions, we also had a visioning session on July 22nd, which was in person at Midstate Tech College here, and we met with 12 City Hall staff to talk about their vision for project goals, experiences, and how they see this new facility happening. Each staff member created a vision board, and you can see an example of it in the bottom right, where individually on their own they looked through a curated list of words, phrases, and pictures that we've used over the years to help them understand what they want in their building and how they foresee using it. We then had each of them give a little presentation about what they like, things that stood out to them, and then in the upper right you can see we actually kept a tally list of reoccurring items that we heard, things that just seemed to really stick out for people that they wanted. We then are actually currently compiling that list, and we're actually going to be creating a booklet that shows here's the top 5 images that you have that everybody, used. Here's the top 10 phrases that were really standing out. And then we actually use that as kind of a guiding principle when we're going through the design. But then it's also a good touch point to bring back to the community and say, these are the things that stood out to us as priorities for what we want. So looking at this 1515 Strong's location, and then looking at the 1039 Ellis Street building. So pretty close proximity to the downtown area, and it is part of this proposed facilities conditional assessment. So just to give a little breakdown of that building, you can see the building footprint is in red, and then the property line is in orange around the outside. So it's a 3-story building for the main portion, and then there's a small 1-story piece to the side. It is 57,800 square feet, and we have performed a preliminary evaluation of the building and its mechanical systems, and we're going to be compiling it into a full conditional assessment report that we're currently putting together. But just to give kind of a executive summary of our findings with the building. So the exterior is currently a white ephes. It is experiencing some delamination, and it is severely dirty and needs to be cleaned at a bare minimum to extend its life. It's not very appealing. It's probably from the 70s, 80s, so it really is not in the best condition. The windows are non-operable ribbon windows that are in good condition, but as we start going along, there are not enough around the perimeter of the building to support the office function that they're looking for, so some additional ones would need to be installed as a part of a renovation project. The structure from the facilities assessment that was provided to the city by Iconic Structures showed that the steel and concrete framing was adequate for office use. There were some portions where that is the highest weight use that the frame could support, so it is kind of flirting with the line for some of the usage of it, but the bones of the building are still pretty good. And then the floor plate with the building of its era are pretty low floor-to-floor heights. Most of the areas are low enough that they don't really support well ventilated space for newer updated mechanicals that the building doesn't currently have that would be needed to be put in to create it more of a modern office building. But there is a mostly open gridded floor plan that would lend itself to having an office floor plan. The systems, the mechanical systems of the building are probably the weakest point of the whole system. So plumbing, most of the fixtures have reached the end of their life cycle. They're cracked, stained, most of the porcelain. A lot of the insulation has been ripped off and replaced, and the insulation that hasn't has been found to be asbestos-containing material. The chases and stacks and the location of the building are reusable, and one of the better points of the plumbing infrastructure. For the electrical system, it needs a new generator that has reached the end of its life cycle, but most of the other electrical systems are in good condition, but the floor plan that it currently occupies doesn't reflect what a new office building would need to be, so most of the electrical system would need to be reworked. And it does not meet current energy codes for occupancy sensors and alarm systems. The mechanicals have, all the large components have reached the end of their life cycle and would be recommended to be replaced. And the fire protection is the latest system that was installed, and that is in good condition for reuse as a central core, but again, it is not connected to the floor plan layout that would need to be projected. So our, if you want to go to the next slide, our recommendation would be that this is pretty much a complete removal of most of the interior walls, ceilings, mechanicals, and finishes to be able to reuse this building. There's the central existing plumbing core, mechanical chase, and elevators that are reusable for future use. So, looking at the kind of two proposals that we have in front, we have an estimated project schedule and budget based on some loose conceptual designs that really just help us understand the kind of pros and cons for those two options. So, going with a renovated option, we are in what we're calling the pre-design phase now. So we started it on 7/15, just as that was kind of that initial date that we were mobilized with this. As the mayor mentioned, the city council meeting on the 18th is the decision date. So if we say, yes, we're going to go with the renovation route, we're projecting a month and a half for schematic design, 2.5 months for design development, 3 months for construction documents, 3 weeks for bidding, and then an estimated 9.5 months for construction time. A part of these assumptions are 2-week approval times between sending out preliminary plans, getting a review from the city saying, yes, this we want, or making changes. We are not assuming a lot of long, drawn-out changes within that time scale and review plans, and any unforeseen construction issues or any uncovered issues within the building. One of the downsides of going with a renovated building is we have as much information as we can discover, but sometimes you don't know things until you start pulling walls down and finding unforeseen issues, so those are not factored in as much, just not knowing what they are. So that whole process we're assuming would be approximately 20 months, which would get you into the building at the beginning of March 2027. So as a part of that requested square footage that we talked about, 46,900 square feet, with a conceptual renovation of utilizing the first and the second floor of the building, that gets you 43,360 square feet. Now, as the mayor mentioned, the requested square footage that we were going from had everybody getting multiples of meeting rooms, bathrooms, things like that. So we were able to find some efficiencies with sharing meeting spaces, sharing reception areas. So we feel like it is possible to scale that square footage down. And then with this option for cost effectiveness, we had to leave the third floor as a white box space for future expansion, which was the last 14,460 square feet to round out that 57,820 total building square footage. Because while that space on the third floor might not need to be used at the moment, it still would need to be touched, and that is some square footage dollars that still need to be allocated. So if you go to the next slide, it just shows that kind of conceptual renovation design that we talked about. So the kind of core public function areas being stacked off to the side and sharing the public space, the copiers, meeting areas, things like that, utilizing the parking lot in the existing one-story space, as well as the council chambers, having large expansive space there. Going to the second floor, mayor's office, city attorney, some of those spaces that don't need to be as public facing kind of elevated to the second floor, but we were needing to put the public engineering space on the second floor just because of the size limitations of the first floor, pushing that as close as we could to the elevator to make it as easy of a time for the public to move through the building. And then the third floor, again, not touching it at all. When we go to the next slide and talk about the budget, you can see that that is some square footage that has to be allocated somehow. And so that white box renovation is the fungibility of the budget in terms of the renovation options. So again, 43,360 square feet. What we have been seeing historically for renovation costs, we gave kind of a high and low end budget estimates, $265 a square feet on the low end, up to $300 per square feet on the high end. And then again, that white box cost lowers, but it's not zero. And so with that, we're coming out to 15.3 on the low end and 17.42 on the high end. But that is purely just construction cost. So as a part of this budget estimate, and we have a more substantial breakdown that we can share with you, we also try to show the design fees, architects, civil engineers, structural engineers, all of those fees that aren't necessarily a part of that construction cost but do factor in, as well as reimbursables, right, submitting the plans for review, and the owner project cost. And that's part of the breakdown that really adds to the renovation versus new construction cost. Some of the owner costs for this renovation would include abatement, furnishings. With our estimate, we are utilizing half of the building as having new furniture, and then showing half is being furniture that currently is used and being reused. That's definitely a number that could be adjusted if you don't get new furniture with this new budget, or if you do, that's kind of a way for cost savings to be built in. Other elements, window treatments, IT, utilities is one of the benefits of this renovation option, is not reallocating utilities within the kind of entrance into the building.
And I want to point out too that in the previous slides here, we talked about the floor diagrams. These are very, very preliminary, mostly to see how the adjacencies that the directors have asked for work with each other. This is by no means the way it's going to look. It's just the ways that it could look to make sure that it fits in a renovation or what it might look like in a brand new build. As you can see already, some of the adjacencies that were asked for by staff aren't exactly possible with the floor design that's existing. So don't look at this as a floor plan that's set in stone. This is an idea to see what fits, what works, and how it might look. There's still room for changes on all of those things. We're just trying to get an idea of renovating or building new, which option do we want to go with? So
correct, and that's even more true in the new option, where we're purely just starting from a blank slate and saying, all right, if we're thinking about this efficiently, what is the best way that we can put a space together that works with the departments, versus, as the mayor was saying, with the renovation option, it's here's what we got, how can we make that space work as best for you? So jumping to that new construction, the timeline that we're projecting would be the same in terms of planning and construction drawings. The only difference would be the construction timeline, which we are looking at about 13 months, which puts us in the middle of 2027 for entering in. Again, similar assumptions with 2-week approvals from the city, the few to some changes along the way, but no big overhaul changes, as well as the existing building demolition not having too many issues, and any sort of uncovered soils issues that we can talk about later.
And just again for clarification, Justin, you're confident that new construction could begin and demolition could be concurrent?
So the design that we're presenting actually utilizes space on the site that would not interfere with the building being demolished at the same time as construction. That being said, and with the longer timeline broken out that we have, there is a chance that if you guys were to say on 8/18, yes, go with new construction, theoretically you guys could start demolishing the building before we even finished our drawings, and then we would almost just present it as we came to this blank slate spot. We were the architects of record for Noble Clinic. That's how that occurred. There was a building on the site when we started the project, but we approached it as the building was already gone. So that is an option for cost savings as well, but that's more of a thing the city would have to work out with contractors and timeline. But we are confident that that could be possible. So again, showing that 46,900 square feet of requested space, again, just scaling back, finding those efficiencies, but as a blank slate, we projected you could do it in 41,000 square feet of a two-story building, and as we kind of mentioned, we don't anticipate with this design that we're proposing that it would interfere with any demolition that could occur at the same time, or it could be adjusted if demolition were to occur beforehand. So the conceptual design that we're showing here pushes the new building all the way as close as we can get to water, and the site is zoned for downtown, so it does adhere to the setbacks, or lack thereof, that would be on that site. And one of the benefits that we see with this plan is by tucking it more into the corner, it allows for a lot more designed expansion space. With the existing building, or the current Ellis Street building being gone. The other option with this is that the north corner along Ellis could also be sold off. Currently it is a separate parcel, gives a little flexibility for future use of that site, or maybe just a city park, just a green space. But the current configuration with the building being kind of smack dab in the center of the site just kind of makes for expansion a little tricky. The current building is 9 different buildings built over several decades, so the expansion possibilities are a little less with the renovation option versus if hey, maybe, and we can talk about it with the estimates, but maybe the 41,000 square feet is a little bit too much for us to bite off now. Maybe we scale back, but we know that in 10 years we're gonna expand out this way. We can design that into a future expansion project a lot easier than trying to renovate the square footage that already is there. So again, purely conceptual, we're just trying to take that departmental adjacency matrix, pare down the total all-in requested departmental square feet, and just show what can we fit and get a square footage within that footprint that we were given in the corner of the site there. So showing a 2-story option here with a large kind of first floor, second floor stacked over top, and then just a simple barbell kind of shape that allows for easy expansion, putting certain offices and departments towards those walls that are easy to be removed, and then extend the floor plan. But again, haven't discussed any of this with staff or finding other ways to save space and departmental efficiency. So then with the new construction, again, 41,000 square feet. We have our high-low cost per square feet, and again, we're pulling those from our experience with these projects as well as the construction project that we're currently undergoing with our office, obviously scaling it back accordingly, as the mayor has mentioned, for understanding your guys' budget concerns. That brings it to around 13.8 on the low end and 14.9 for construction cost, again, for between those two sides. The design fees.
Matt Shocker from Somerville Architects. Matt, I'm going to need you to get up to the lectern so you can be on the microphone.
if you could just note that you've got a contingency buried in that first part. If anybody here is doing math.
Yes, yes, between both the construction costs on both of the renovation and new construction, there's a 10% contingency within that design buried, as well as with the owner projected costs that we've had, there's also a 10% contingency within that as well. So with the renovation, we had the contingency there just for things that we discover, but then also with the new construction and the hazardous materials report that we've received from Stantec from the city, that there are some indicators that there might be some unfortunate soil conditions in that area, but again, not knowing until we go into that area. So again, with the design fees, we're also including civil, survey, soil, the things that come along with new construction that aren't a part of that existing renovation, as well as the demolition of the new building. So that is actually built into that owner projected cost, which if you look at them, that's why that one's a little higher, just because, right, that's an expense that's going to need to have. So then, just to kind of break down the comparisons and the pros and cons between those. So for the renovation, we're seeing a shorter construction time. You can get into the building right away. There's an easier expansion because the third floor is already there and built. There's a historical connection with certain, that one's a little bit of an asterisk because it's with certain parts of the building. There are parts that are newer construction that don't really have the historic nature to them. The other thing with the EFIS that's currently over the building, it's encapsulated the entire building and really doesn't maintain any of the historic nature of any of the windows, shapes, any of the brick detailing of that original building. And then there's a lower construction cost per square foot, but the cons are that square footage is there, so you don't have that flexibility that you do with the new construction. You're stuck with that 57,000. You can choose to not build out certain portions of it, but then that's just affecting the building and how you guys use it. There's also the interior existing conditions, the low ceilings, the floor-to-floor heights, the window locations that are just part of that built-in project. With the building being as it is, and your square footage and expansions predetermined. So if the next renovation you guys decide that you need that departmental adjacency to be next to the city clerk, well, sorry, the square footage is on the third floor, so then you're going to have to throw someone up there and do a lot more shuffling versus understanding early on how you might want to have those departmental adjacencies. The other thing, the building unknowns, as we've mentioned, there are hazardous materials that have been discovered, but there's always stuff that you discover when you start demolishing buildings. And there are a few salvageable pieces of that existing mechanical equipment, so it is really a complete gut job. And as I mentioned, the unappealing exterior with the EFIS, and it will need to be addressed, if not with this current renovation project, if you just want to grab it and leave it as is, it will need to be addressed sooner rather than later, just because it will be deteriorating. So then the pros and cons with the new construction, you'll have better interior environments. We can set the floor-to-floor heights. We can make sure that the space has high ceilings, more windows, better departmental layouts. We are a little bit more in the driver's seat of being able to control that. Again, the better expansion opportunities that I talked about. Thoughtful entrance experience. Currently, with the way that the existing building, utilizing it as best we can to make sure to maintain those departmental adjacencies, it still is a little bit of a maze to get back in there just to make sure that we can fit everything in there. And you have easier cost control, right? You decide that maybe we don't need that 41,000 square feet, you can throttle that back as you need to. And then the opportunities for the parcel separation, if that's something that you guys would look at. The cons, a little bit longer construction time. So again, it's just something to evaluate when you're looking at that. You've got a move-in date. The environmental unknowns, as I mentioned, the soil conditions, higher cost per square foot, that's with the new option, and then the cost of demolishing the existing building is a added cost to this new option.
That's it?
That's it.
So what we are hoping for is any feedback that anybody might have. The intention would be for Somerville to take that feedback from tonight back, modify the presentation, specifically as it relates to the build new option or the renovate option over the next week, and then finance would you basically see the same presentation. The Finance Committee will see the same presentation and use that in their deliberations to make a recommendation to council, whether we wish to pursue the build new option or the renovation option. So, gentlemen, thank you very much, and I'll open it up to anyone. I mean, it's really, city staff and the users, but if you have a question, I'll start with the commission. Question, comments? We are not looking for action tonight. Commissioner Rice.
Yeah, I'll start with what probably neither party wants to hear. Has a hybrid option been explored? Renovating a significant amount of the existing building and creating a large, expansive addition that would maybe get the thoughtful entrance we're looking for and some connectivity on a single floor while maintaining the theoretical kind of expandability of the current 3-story building that does exist.
We looked at some of that very early on in the process and determined that it just wasn't as practical as one or the other. More costs, more potential problems seem to pop up when connecting a new building to an old building. So we kind of ruled that one out pretty quick. Anything else from the commissioners up here? Looks like we've got some people standing up. Are they just stretching their legs, or do you want to come up here and make some comments? I will offer it up to anybody who wants to come to the lectern. And again, we're just really looking for comments, not necessarily on the layouts of all the departments, but as it relates as much as you can to a build new or renovate option.
Sean Marr, I'm the older person for Area 11. I think the build new option really, because this is a once in a lifetime chance for the city to get exactly what it wants and to have it designed exactly how it also wants. And with the cost being about the same, it seems like to build new would be the best option really. To renovate the building, my time on city council, every time the city has tried to renovate anything, they find something and it turns into a money pit. And the change orders keep coming in and coming in and coming in, and the cost just keeps going up and up and up. And then over time, you're just kind of stuck because you can't really stop. You have to keep paying more and more and more. But if we end up building new, we could get exactly what the city needs. We could design it the way that we want. We're not constrained with anything. And this is again a once in a lifetime opportunity for the city to really get to do something right. When we look at the courthouse, when they built that, they cut corners every which way, which has led to the problems that it has now. The heating, the cooling, you have offices that are 110 degrees, they have their windows open, and they have, and it's 40 below outside, and then folks down the hallway, it's minus 40. They have to end up bringing in their own heaters because they cut corners on everything there. I mean, we could design it exactly the way that the city needs it. We have the input from everybody so that we don't have to worry about what are we going to find in this building. This building's been there for about 100 and some years. It was a factory beforehand. There's going to be things in there that we don't know. And I think for the cost, I think it'd be better for the city to get something exactly the way that we need it, and this would be good for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, I'm not really looking for comments on whether we should build new or remodel tonight. That's something we'll be discussing at the Finance Committee. I'm trying to prepare the presentation as best we can for the Finance Committee. So things like, have we considered building 3 stories on a smaller footprint, or 1 story on a wider footprint? The adjacencies, I really think that community development needs to be as far away from the treasurer's office as possible. Things like that. So Somerville has the opportunity to take that feedback and tweak the presentation if they need to, so then next week the Finance Committee can make their recommendation as best they can. Yes, Commissioner Schuler.
So I wanted to double check that the like kind of comprehensive ballpark for the renovation, that's a fairly knowable introductory conversational number. I didn't see, or maybe I missed it, the cost of demolition anywhere in there?
I think it is.
Yeah, so that was a part of the owner projected cost, and we have a more substantial line item breakdown that we can provide to you. Just for this format, we kind of pulled together those costs.
Okay, sorry about that.
But yeah, no, that is factored in with the existing building demolition, as well as the abatement, because that would still need to happen. If you're demolishing the existing building, that abatement still would have to happen. So all of those costs are still pulled together for that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to have to get up there. Maybe you could just explain.
You got to get up there. It's really that when we record it and people watch at home or watch the videos, they can't hear you if you're not by a microphone.
So Matt Schochner, principal architect from Somerville Architects and Engineers. What we have noted right now for existing building demo with the new construction is $400,000, and then $150,000 in hazardous material abatement, just an allowance because we don't know what's in the soil, et cetera. And then the demo, as Justin had mentioned, most of the building interior will be demoed, but that's baked into the $265 a square foot. So we looked at 3, 4, 5 projects in the last 5 years that our office has done. It's similar, and then we use a good method to inflate that up in today's dollars or whatever. So that's why that renovation's $265. That also includes some new windows, not like blowing apart the whole envelope of the building and doing whatever we want, but doing something to the exterior of the building too.
And I want to point that out because that's important too, because these estimates are based on actual numbers. You did the Noble Community Clinics, which you recently opened in Stevens Point at the old Rice Clinic site across from BJ Jacobs. How many square feet was that property?
36 to 38,000 square feet on the new build, and I think it's public knowledge it was about $336 a square foot.
Okay.
So when you look at new construction here, I think we have $300 to $325. The reason why we're saying this is less expensive is a clinic like that has a lot of, I'm going to call them med gases, but dental gases in there. There are a lot of, every exam room has a sink, has casework cabinetry, a lot of maybe even smaller rooms and more doors throughout. So
there's a fair amount of gases in City Hall too, just so you know. And then the other one, of course, was your project. You're building a new headquarters in Green Bay, so they're very relevant costs. And the square footage on that building is approximately what?
Square footage on our building is about 34,000, but about 24,000 of usable. We also have indoor parking, and I want to note on the parking here, it's not so every staff member in the building has a parking spot. If I remember correctly, it's more for fleet vehicles, et cetera. Just so
city-owned vehicles,
et cetera. Just so everybody doesn't think all the city staff's going to get some posh parking. So yeah, our building is actually similar, a little similar in size, but we're architects, so we kind of had to do it up. So our building cost is a little more, but it also helps us get down to this new build cost that we have here, which is less than what our building costs. So kind of our signature piece is it's what we do. So
awesome. Thank you very much. Any other comments? I just want to point out, especially for the alderpersons, your city staff and the representatives at Somerville have been working daily to put these things together, and it's very much a group effort, getting people in the same room, talking about how we work together, what we wish we could do that we can't do now, what we maybe don't like now that we could do in a new building or a renovation. So I hope the council understands the amount of effort that everybody's been putting in to make sure that we're going to have a future city hall that will last for the generations to come. Thank you for your patience, gentlemen. Any interest in opening up not a Quick Trip anywhere in town? We've got apparently some parcels that might be for sale. Just checking. New headquarters could be.
Is that going to be on the record, though? So.
That's right. Thank you very much. We, for those watching and listening, we will get that PowerPoint posted to the website hopefully tomorrow. It's in the packet. It's in the packet, but it's still hard to see. We'll get it posted in electronic form. You got the physical form there, but we'll get it so you can zoom in, put a PDF or something out on the website for those who need it. With that, we are going to move on to, I guess we already had item number 6. Move on to item number 7, which is a request from the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Stevens Point to transfer ownership of some parcels identified in your packet back to the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Stevens Point. And I just realized that I stopped sharing our agenda, so let me get that rolling again. Give me 30 seconds. There, and share, there, and where are we at? Item number 6, 7, there we go. All right, so, Director.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to pass this on to Chris. Chris has done a lot of work on this front, so I will not steal his thunder.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll try to make this quick. About a year ago, you may recall a request from the Redevelopment Authority to transfer the Shopco parcel. I guess there was a request from the city to transfer the Shopco parcel to the City of Stevens Point for the redevelopment of the Shopco parcels per the Downtown Targeted Area Master Plan. Dependent on a grant application to the Environmental Protection Agency's Brownfield Cleanup Grant. And if that grant was not awarded to the City of Stevens Point, that the ownership of that parcel would be returned eventually to the Redevelopment Authority. They set a timestamp on that return to be 10 days, but whenever there is a request or a transfer of ownership of environmentally contaminated land, whenever we are trying to ensure that we are eligible for state and federal grant dollars, we need to abide by state and federal regulations about those land transfers. So the Redevelopment Authority essentially needed to perform some additional due diligence called an all appropriate inquiries before that transfer was initiated. In addition to that, when the Shopco parcel was obtained, which is the parcel ending in 2950, it's identified in the agenda packet, while it was incorporated within TID 6 and 10, it did not, the formation documents for TID 6 and 10 did not state that environmental contamination was a concern, and so therefore the city had a bit of an issue with the DNR saying that we could apply for cleanup funds. The DNR has guided us and shared some direction for the Redevelopment Authority to acquire the parcels correctly, to designate those parcels as blighted parcels before the Redevelopment Authority goes forward with acquiring those parcels. And so included in your agenda packets as well is a resolution to be recommended to the Common Council for approval to designate those 5 parcels as blighted parcels and to transfer those parcels to the Redevelopment Authority. It's essentially the request from the Redevelopment Authority to proceed with redrawing the parcel boundaries on the Shopco parcels and to begin redevelopment as we move forward.
Yeah, and I think just to clarify, the staff recommendation to the Plan Commission is to recommend to the Common Council approval of the attached blight resolution in your packets, as well as the transfer of ownership of the parcels listed in the agenda as well as in the packet to the Redevelopment Authority. So it is all under one ownership. We can continue to apply for grants. We have the blight resolution covered, et cetera. I will say Chris has explored this topic very, very in depth. And this appears to be our only option if, one, we do want to see redevelopment occur on this parcel, and two, if we want to attempt to receive outside funding and not just fund this entirely within the city. So given those two, primary, I guess, desires, this is really our only option forward. So we'll be looking for that approval for the resolution as well as the transfer of the parcels.
So moved. If I may.
You may.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rice. Discussion there? Comments from the audience? Or online? No, I just saw a chat. We don't monitor the chat, so I apologize. I'll look at it in just a second. And not seeing any comments. All those in favor of the request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is approved. In reviewing the chats, I apologize. Again, we don't monitor the chats. That's on me. We don't have the resources to have multiple people monitoring this. Andrea Olson had some comments, 9:03, so I assume they were in regards to City Hall. I asked in the chat a second time and a third time. I apologize for not getting to that. Andrea, I would suggest, since we're past that, you can submit your comments via email either to my office or Director Kivala's office. You skipped me again. You did not ask at all. I did not ask at all, right? Again, we don't monitor chats. We just, sometimes it gets overlooked. That's a disadvantage. We're not legally obligated to allow any sort of remote access. We do it as a service to make sure that everybody has as much access as we can. But I apologize, that is on me. I wasn't monitoring chats. Can't even see the chat at this point when we have the presentation. So if you would like to submit your comments to the director's office, you can do so. I understand if you don't want to submit them to my office, but again, I do apologize for not getting to those. All right, item number 8 is selection of the vice chair for the City Plan Commission. We failed to do this back in May when we had our chair. So state statute requires we select a chair at the first Tuesday in May, which is totally different than all of the other committees. We did that. We didn't have a vice chair, so now we need to select a chair, our vice chair. So I will open nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Alder Nebo.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing no further nominations, I saw that finger, I'm not going to take it. That's a different finger, it was the index finger for those of you watching. Seeing that there are no other nominations, I will declare nominations closed and accept a unanimous ballot cast for Alderperson Nebo as vice chair of the Plan Commission. Someone's got to move that.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? You sure?
It's just because I have short meetings.
All right. And we do have item number 9 is a staff update on the zoning code rewrite. I did have from the earlier chat, I'm not going to skip you again, the procedures. You've done this in person and virtually with me. Whatever, Andrea, you did have a question or a comment you said on item number 9. So go ahead and ask your question.
Just a second, I have to get back to my other computer. On item number 9, where's my notes for that one now? Just assumed I was going to get skipped again. Shoot, where did it go?
Andrea, how about if you submit your question to Director Kivala?
Sorry, I'm going from one chunk to the next. Well, one of my concerns was...
So, Andrea, did you already submit your question, or do you have something in addition to that?
No, I had something in addition to that because I had gone through the presentation that was coming up and I had some concerns about how the survey in general, because the survey, okay, I'll just go from, I'll wing it. So there was only 93 participants in the survey, and of those participants, it was very, very clear that the population that did the survey is not representative of our community's population. Over 52% of the respondents were making, I think it was $75,000 or more. And also, most of them owned a home. So you had a very, very low population of anybody that was a renter that took the survey. Also, there wasn't a demographic question in the, at least in the presentation, that relates to age or household makeup, or many other just general demographics that are very important if you're trying to redo the zoning. Like, what are our family makeups? If you're trying to say that we need more housing for families that are intergenerational, well, we don't even know those makeups of those families. You don't even know the ages of the population that took the survey. So there's just some very basic demographics that really should be included, and always the opt out to not respond. The newest survey that's going on right now doesn't have the option to not include yourself as, like, I don't want to give my my ethnicity maybe. It's not giving that. So there's a lot of, also you're forced to indicate your address. So then a survey that you might think that you're going to be anonymous for, at the end you're forced to give your address. It just doesn't sit right. Give a map. If somebody doesn't know their district, that map can show their district, and then they can put their district in there. It was just some general survey design things that I had with this. And also, I think that if you want to get a representation of our actual community, the surveys are going to have to get some type of incentives. Like, you fill this out, you can get a couple tickets for the rides for Riverfront Rendezvous next year. You can get into, like, maybe you can get a free ticket for something if your name is picked out for whatever, $25 gift certificate for filling out the survey. Like, just put them in a pool so then they can get something. It's always the what's in it for me many times to get people just to do the survey, because 93 people is not very many people. That's like, what was it? It's 0.2 or 3%.
Andrea, you said you had a question. Was there a question in there?
Why aren't our surveys being written in ways that are reflective of some best practices? Like,
okay,
that's it. Because if you're trying to get good data, you need good questions in the first place.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're suggesting that we don't have an anonymous survey?
No, I said exactly that you do need it anonymous.
How do you give away prizes to an anonymous survey participant?
At the end of a general survey, you can put in there, this is a very, very normal thing to do. That if you want to be in a drawing for finishing the survey, please include your name and phone number, etc.
Okay, so not anonymous.
Opt in. Then you are opting in then. But
Gotcha.
Right now, with the most recent survey that's going on right now, you are not anonymous because it is asking for your address at the end of it.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. All right, Director.
You have options
Zoning
and
code
best
rewrite.
practices.
I'll do a rapid fire. Had 3 informational meetings this past month, focusing on the west side, east side, and blanking on the third one, right off the cuff.
Division Street.
Division Street. Thank you. It's been a long meeting. Have one focus this month, focusing on the Jefferson and Dixon Street corridor. As alluded, had 2 surveys for public consumption that was both live and closed in July, focusing on housing and transportation. There's one survey out right now focusing on sustainability and site design, and that will be live through next week, Tuesday. So please fill it out if you haven't.
Let me ask you this, Administrator. How do we market the survey? Obviously, we can say, hey, the survey's available. We can have the press release on it. That doesn't mean someone's going to print it. We share it on our social media. We can share it on the website, but we don't send a letter to every person in the city saying, please take our survey. How do we advertise a survey? I know I've seen signs around town, but what else we do?
Yeah, so we've done the signs, we've done direct mailers for the informational meetings, and for each of the informational meetings, I've talked about, hey, we have these public surveys that are live, here's the QR code, here's a link, please fill them out if you're able to do so. We've also had, based off of the topic area, we've been sending emails to certain stakeholder groups, like the sustainability one now. We've sent them out to like MREA, we've sent them out to some other orgs in the area, just so that they could disperse a survey to their client group as well. Are you going to reach every single person? No, regardless of how much I try, how many different ways I try to release news about the survey to the public. Just being open and upfront about the different ways that you do it is really the best approach. So.
Yeah, and I understand completely. We can't choose who responds to our survey. We'd love to get a really good cross-section and a broad demographic of our community, but the simple fact is we don't force people to do that. Are there ways that we could reach some of the other demographics that may be underrepresented? I think there's room for improvement there.
Sure.
But I certainly don't want to incentivize somebody by free Noah's Ark tickets or something along those lines that then someone's filling it out only to win tickets. So.
And I will say, for other surveys released by the city over the years, typically the 100 respondent limit is about the goal that you want to set. So the fact that we receive close to that, I'm not going to knock it. Is there always work that can be done? Absolutely, but I'm not going to discredit
Maybe the media can help us out with that, trying to encourage more people to take the survey. And I know it's shared out on social media. This is a big thing, right? You can either be part of the solution now. I hope you're not one of the audience members that complains about it later. Unless you participate in it now. So I thank you very much for everything we're trying to do. I do still understand, though, that there's room for improvement, so I know you're exploring those options all the time. Any comments from the commissioners? Okay. When's the next meeting again?
It will be, let me pull it right up.
Okay.
Yeah, a sec.
I will say, at the one I attended in my district, there was some hostility from some of the people that attended, and Mr. Kuhn handled it very well. Thought he did an excellent job of.
Please don't take it out on the staff. If you got a problem with the zoning code rewrite or anything, feel free to call my office and yell at me. Don't take it out on our staff.
Yeah. August 19th, 5 p.m. over at Saremore Park.
Okay, yeah. And the new survey that's coming out is going to be available when?
Through next week, Tuesday.
Okay, and how am I able to locate that survey?
Stevenspoint.com, and if you search zoning code rewrite, pull up our zoning code rewrite page, you'll be able to click it, plus I believe it's on the main page.
Okay, well. Yeah, I think it's on the main page. I was just saying that for the people watching and listening at home, or when they're watching and listening, and encourage them to take the survey without incentive. All right, item number 10 is a director's report. Director, report.
Yeah, keep it very brief. Update on the bids. We do hope to have a new executive director in place. I'm really hoping by the beginning of September. The Business Improvement District, Downtown Business Improvement District, has an agenda item tomorrow, actually. If it's not tomorrow already.
It is tomorrow. Yeah, well, I was going to say, not tomorrow yet.
But tomorrow to make a selection, so we're hoping that an offer is extended 2-3 weeks, maybe a month notice, and we'll have somebody in there by September. So hopeful for that. Forest Creek subdivision, really no new sales since this was last brought to you. Staff has worked on a potential kind of unique marketing strategy in which we would almost do a LOI for select lots for individuals. Letter of intent, sorry. LOI, letter of intent, for developers, individual builders, et cetera, wanting to essentially reserve a lot for 6 months. They're going to take on the responsibility of designing a house for it, marketing it, and then after that 6 months, if no buyer comes forward, nothing's lost. The lot is still in the ownership of the city, and then the developer walks away. If the developer does find a buyer of the house design that they put out, at that point, then they would sign a complete offer to purchase with us. They'd buy the lot just like anyone else would. So we're trying to take out, take on a little opportunity cost for ourselves, and then have the developers take on a little design marketing cost in hope of building additional houses for people looking for them. So just trying a creative way there. We're going to take that to council for an official action coming up here, but just want to make you guys aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Any questions for the director?
One quick question.
One quick question. All right.
What is the meaning of the meeting was unsuccessful as there was a shortage of 10 votes?
Yes. So as we were working through our Portage County Business Park bid, owners association situation. So we have to dissolve the current owners association and amend the deed restrictions and protective covenants. To do that, we needed 3/4 votes, and every vote out in the business park has a certain number of votes. For example, Land's End has 68 votes.
And it's based on square footage.
It's based on lot square footage.
Right.
So we needed a certain number of businesses to come forward and either vote via proxy or vote in person. We had.
Fair. We thought we had them ahead of time.
We thought we had them ahead of time. We did have a few businesses that were going to attend in person come up with last-minute emergencies. They were super apologetic afterwards. There was nothing they could do.
So it was lack of people voting, but not a lack of people voting for it.
Correct. And now we're going through a
That's what I was
secondary
curious
process.
about.
We
Yeah.
believe we're going to get the required number of votes here soon.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. And with that, our agenda is exhausted. We are adjourned at 9:32. Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.